Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Media Boat Podcast. Today is February the 17th, 2021. If you do not know what the Media Boat Podcast is, we are a podcast that talks about all things media, including movies, television, video games, and music, not necessarily in that order. We give you news, thoughts about new releases, upcoming things we're excited about, all sorts of things, only here exclusively. Well, probably not exclusively. There's probably other outlets covering these things, but they don't count when you get our take. Our take is the one that matters. And we have some takes this week, so get ready for this. My name is Matt. His name is Mike.
I'm Mike. He's Matt. We have our own takes on a lot of stuff that happened this week, which is why you come to us for special takes on that. Also, happy Ash Ketchum Wednesday, everybody.
Jesus. No, Pokemon Week is next week.
Oh, but today is Ash Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yesterday was Fat Tuesday, and I was so stuffed.
While we're on the subject, I saw that some Catholic church was doing digital Ash things through a phone app.
Okay.
Where you could like a Instagram filter kind of style thing where you would take like selfie video of yourself and it would just like put the Ash cross on your forehead digitally. Mm-hmm. And it was like,
that's one way to do it.
Sure.
Drive-throughs, I guess. Maybe.
Drive-through ashing. Just apologies to our Catholic audience. Anyways.
That's you, Mark. Oh, and my futures and my future brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. Well,
shout out. You're Catholic. I know that because wedding in a Catholic church.
That's all we got. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about movies first and foremost here. Real quick, the box office did still exist sort of this week. The Croods is your number one movie again, somehow, with $2.08 million, followed by the new release this week, which we'll be talking about a little later, Judas and the Black Messiah at $2.07 million. Other Warner's other film still in the top five, The Little Things at 2.04 at number 3. So
just means that, hey, some box office, because that's $6 million right there.
Yeah, it's something.
For box office weekend. It's a lot higher than it has been. And the fact that all three of those movies crossed $2 million in a weekend.
Yeah.
Big ups.
Yeah. It's something. But the real showstoppers here are in movie news. Let's start the movie news by talking about a movie adaptation that's been moving forward slowly based on a Media Boat favorite video game franchise. Well, I hesitate saying favorite because I feel like 3 was such a disappointment. We kind of bounced right off of it, and maybe it's not really a favorite anymore, but it maybe was back in the day.
At one point, it was our favorite.
Yes, so the movie adaptation of the video game series Borderlands is still happening. Eli Roth's own adaptation of the game series. And casting news keeps trickling out. So we've gotten most of the cast at this point, with the newest addition being none other than everyone's favorite Jack Black. Lionsgate's movie adaptation of the popular video game, as I said, he joins an A-list ensemble that already includes Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Black is going to be the voice of Claptrap, which I feel like people made it as a joke for a while, that like, oh, where are they going to get Jack Black to be Claptrap? And they did it. I feel like you swap Jack Black and Kevin Hart here, but that's just me. Well, maybe not. That wouldn't work.
Let's see who's everyone playing though.
The rest of the cast, in case you're wondering, Cate Blanchett will be Lilith, Jamie Lee Curtis is Tannis, and Kevin Hart is currently cast as Roland, which makes sense.
But he's not tall enough.
Also, he's not serious enough. I feel like that role is not a comedic role in the video games. But
yeah, it's not comedic, but I mean, granted, Kevin Hart does have the videos of him working out, so he is buffer.
I think he got there body-wise.
His voice still doesn't say leader
No.
commando, though.
No.
Especially compared to the video game version.
Especially because isn't there some sort of romantic arc between Lilith and him?
Yes.
I also don't see that working at all.
No. It's explicitly implied a romantic arc.
Yeah. Anyways, so director Eli Roth, as I mentioned, previously collaborated with Black and Blanchett on the 2018 family comedy The House with a Clock in Its Walls. So Nathan Kahane, president of the Lion Gates Motion Picture Group, says choosing Black for the role was, quote, one of the biggest no-brainer casting decisions we've ever made. So get ready for Jack Black claptrap. Say that 5 times fast.
Aside from Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis,
you didn't say
I don't like any
fast.
of these. Oh, sorry. Jack Black claptrap. Jack Black claptrap. Jack Black claptrap.
Okay.
Aside from Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis, I don't like any of these.
Yeah, no, none of these work. And Jamie Lee Curtis, even for Tannis, I feel like she ages a little higher.
Aged out of that
character is in the games. Again, I don't know what Eli Roth has in mind with this adaptation. Maybe it's something different than what we're getting. Maybe we're not thinking wild enough. Maybe this is a further down the timeline version of these characters. But then again, how is Roland alive then?
Right. That was brought up in a lot of discussions that I've seen.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Why?
Maybe when we see a trailer for this thing, finally, we'll get an idea of kind of what this movie is going to be. But until then, man, I don't know why they're making this. Who is this for?
Especially since we saw how well Monster Hunter did. A recent video game adaptation with the same kind of premise of big over-the-top action for a video game.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going for here. It's a mystery to me.
But hey, not our only adaptation we'll be talking about this podcast.
No, and we'll get there. But first, there's some other bits of news to get to. See what I did there? Because next, it's time to gather up all the other stories that dropped about movies this week in Movie Bits.
So I tried not to do the bits, but
why not?
I can. Why not?
The bits are good. I like the bits. First up in the bits this week, Danai Gurira. I probably butchered that person's name. That is a Danai. Okay, Danai Gurira.
Gurira of Black Panther and of The Walking Dead.
Yes, who was?
He was the captain's guard, Akuye.
Okay, is attached to play Shirly Chisholm, the first Black Congresswoman, in an upcoming biopic, The Fighting Shirley Chisholm, from Stephanie Allain, director of Dear White People. That's a lot of names in there.
Yeah, that sounds like a good project.
Yeah, I can see that. Next up, a competing biopic. Regina King will play Shirley Chisholm in a biopic written and directed by John Ridley, American Crime, who have an exclusive agreement with the Chisholm estate.
Yes.
Dueling biopics.
Not necessarily biopic directly. Unsure of what the Danai Gurira film will be about. Whether
Shirley
it's
Chisholm is my best
her
guess.
whether it's her already in Congress.
Is it Chisholm or Chisholm? Am I mispronouncing
It's Chisholm.
Oh, I am mispronouncing that. Thank you.
The L is silent. But the Regina King biopic will be her rise through politics into a leading figure in the Democratic Party.
I see.
And assumption, according to the synopsis, ending with her giving the lead speech in the DNC in 1972, I think.
Okay.
I saw. But yeah, as Hollywood loves to do, 2 competing films featuring the same premise.
Somebody heard an idea from somebody through somebody's agent, and then both studios got the same project.
Trying to fast track them against each other.
Yep. But that's not the end of our casting or casting adjacent news, as we have Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya, who we'll be talking about later in the podcast, starring in Jordan Peele's next movie. No other details were given about what that is going to be, though.
And no other details will probably be given, seeing as his last film, Us, had zero details revealed until the first trailer.
Yeah, so it's a wait and see on that one. And then lastly, in the movie bits here, in case you didn't figure this out a long time ago, they're making another Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has a date of April 8th, 2022. A teaser logo was shown, and it's what everybody figured it was going to be. It's got those little tails at the end of it, which means, yes, you'll get a Tails in Sonic 2, because you have to. Every Sonic 2 has a Tails in it.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody check, though, is April 8th a traditional movie release day of Friday, or is it Tuesday in spirit of Sonic Tuesday?
No, I'm going to assume it's a traditional Friday.
Oh, man.
Because if they really wanted it, they would release it. It would already been made. They're just saying that's coming to, let's see, that's a Warner Brothers film. So,
is it
Universal? I think it's Universal.
Who did
Sonic? Who did Sonic?
I don't remember.
This was this year.
Yeah, I know. You would think we would
know. Or last year, 2020.
Anyways.
Anyway, if they had something in the pipeline, it would be for February 22nd, 2022, which I believe falls on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that is not a surprise. No surprises here is basically what I say. That is a Paramount film. I just looked it up.
So coming to Paramount Plus then.
Maybe, we'll see. They have not really specified what they're going to do about their films going forward in 2021, or 2022 in this case.
Right.
Anyways, that's it for the bits, for movie bits. We bundled them all up for you in a tight little package. You can thank us later. Anything else that we want to talk about films and before we get into the movie we both watched this week?
No, we should definitely get to the movie, though, because we have some thoughts.
I'm interested to see what you have to think about this. As we alluded to last week, HBO Max has been doing its series of streams that coincide with theatrical releases for Warner Brothers movies. And we mentioned last week that, it hasn't been so stellar so far, but there was promise behind this week's new release, which is Judas and the Black Messiah. Looks like there had been some award show buzz behind this thing. It's got a lot of big names. It's a based on historical events kind of film that is specifically relevant for our modern day politics and is also specifically relevant for coming out in Black History Month. And I don't even know where to begin with this.
I'll begin with. Did you watch last year? Not last year. Okay, so 2019 film Black Klansman, which was nominated for an Oscar in 2020.
No, I have not. I still have not seen that film.
You should probably watch that.
Okay, because I understand that there's some similarities. There's some maybe a little bit of a different kind of take. That, from my understanding, is more fictionalized than this.
Yes, I mean it is Spike Lee joint for Black Klansman.
Right.
So it is a little bit more, kind of leans more heavily into the blaxploitation film genre. Right.
He's going for a specific kind of feel there. This is more like a film, a modern film about a thing that happened.
So, did you like The Departed?
Well, fun fact, I also haven't seen The Departed.
Okay, what kind of podcast are we doing again here?
I'm not the movie guy. You're the movie guy.
Yes,
you should
but those are two excellent films.
Sure.
Both Oscar-nominated films.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of set the groundwork for this film, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, take those two, smash it together, kind of what you get. That's just a very broad strokes, because go into this movie as blind as you can.
I did.
It is great.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I went into this movie knowing about vaguely about who some of the main characters were.
Okay.
But the specifics, some of the specifics were new to me.
So general broad strokes, this deals with the Black Panther Party,
Mhm.
Chicago, the CIA, or FBI?
FBI.
It's Hoover, so it's FBI.
Yes, FBI.
Yeah. So the FBI, Black Panther Party, Chicago, 1960s, I believe.
Specifically, it seems like early 1969, the summer specifically of 1969, and then 1970.
Right.
So it's that kind of span of time, about a year.
Okay. So that is your basic premise of, hey, this is clearly one, straight up conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Two, straight up racial conflict.
Yeah.
Three, historical racial conflict. And
Mm-hmm.
mix all of those together, you get a pretty good sense of why this thing is very heavily nominated everywhere. But then you have the acting of Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith, what's his name? Steinfeld.
Yeah. So they're kind of the two main players here. Important to note. So if you know anything about history of the Black Panther Party, probably know about these two guys. Kaluuya plays Fred Hampton, kind of the figurehead of that era of the Black Panther Party. Very talented orator, very good leader. And then you have kind of on the flip side of that, you have Bill O'Neill, who is basically a car thief who gets recruited by the FBI to be a informant, a spy, essentially to embed himself within the Black Panthers and tell the FBI information about the party as a whole, and specifically Fred Hampton.
And those two characters give you Judas and the Black Messiah.
Right, yeah, which makes the title really, really work well in that kind of way. You get instantly, the title gives you an instant idea of, okay, this is basically how these people are viewed in this story. So my takeaway here, so first of all, I think that one of the things that this movie is going to be, the one thing you talk about when you talk about this movie, the conversation seems to be mostly kind of surrounding this, and for good reason, is Kaluuya's performance here is amazing. Yeah, this is the thing that this movie does the best. This is the thing to see this movie for, is to see Kaluuya's performance. I just want to hand him the supporting actor Oscar right now.
Ooh, you think he's the supporting actor in this?
Yeah, that's the thing, and I'll get there because that is the one thing I want to say about this movie, because generally, I'll say it right now, I really enjoyed this. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very well-made, well-directed movie with a lot of great performances. I think the storytelling is well done. I think that it has something to say without ever having to bring up the current moment in racial injustice in America, because it doesn't have to. Because the thing that this film is saying is that it's always been like this, and there are mechanisms in the system that keep it that way. And I think putting in the historical context of this event, of these events that maybe a lot of their audience will not know the details of, is good, because it gives context for why like these things are still happening, for people who maybe are quicker to shove things under the rug, like the U.S. government's intervention in these things.
Right, compared to Black Klansman, which draws direct parallels to today's events.
This doesn't need to. You see what's happening here in 1969, and you can immediately be like, oh, that's just like last July. That's just like 2015. It's just, you could extrapolate just based on the information that you're seeing here. And so, overall, I think this is a really stellar depiction of those events and those people. But the choice to focus so much on Bill O'Neill's story and have that be the focal point instead of the story of Fred Hampton, which is arguably way more fascinating and way more interesting and the better performance on screen, is maybe a choice I would have rethought. Because when you take the focus away in the scenes that don't involve that story, that's when the movie kind of gets a little lost for me.
Well,
And
Fred Hampton's son, Fred Hampton Jr.,
Mhm.
was on set every day and
Yeah.
did provide historical notes and accuracies.
Yeah.
According to, everything that he's been told about his father.
And that could be very true. And yeah, that's true. It definitely shows with the way that with the reverence that they treat Fred Hampton in this film. What I'm saying is when when the movie kind of diverts and kind of goes in this other direction and focuses so much on the FBI's interactions with O'Neill, or weirdly, like even weirder, chooses to just focus on the FBI agent working with O'Neill and his like potential misgivings about the situations he's found himself in, is when the movie just completely loses track of what it's trying to say. And I think that those scenes, even though there's only maybe a handful in the film, I think do not do the film with service. I think if you excise some of that baggage and maybe tell a story that's more focused on the Fred Hampton stuff, I think you have a stronger piece of work. But that is a small nit to pick in the bigger picture version of the actual act of watching this movie and letting it kind of wash over you. I think is still something I definitely recommend. I don't know,
Yes, I see what
where
you're
did you kind of
saying.
land? Where did you kind of land on this on its choice to kind of focus so much on O'Neill's
I
story?
thought that, well, once the story ended and how it ended,
Yeah.
I've realized that, okay, that's why you went with this direction, because yeah, you can tell a straight biopic of Fred Hampton
Mm-hmm.
and you would still have the end result and be like, well, that's just it. It just ends and like here's the
Yeah, that's
legacy
the story. Yeah.
and that's the story. But with O'Neill, he carries the burden that he basically betrayed everyone. And you see what happens and how the FBI manipulates people to do what they want, much like in the title says, Judas,
Yeah.
and becomes the betrayal. You
Yeah.
see that in the character development, which does make it a more interesting character, because you go someone from wanting to do what's best for themselves to being forced into a corner to do the bidding of someone above them.
I do think there's something, yeah.
It is the more interesting story,
Is it
even
though?
though
Is it?
Hampton is the more interesting character.
So that's the thing, is I think there's a potential for it to be an interesting story. I think you're right. The groundwork is laid just by the person who O'Neill was.
In terms of like a story arc, if we go from A to B, they have O'Neill has the bigger change in character arc.
You're not wrong. You're correct. And yes, it's harder. It's easier from a screenwriting perspective to write a character who is more active in the story, and that is true of this. But the problem with that, though, is that so much of O'Neill's arc is just kind of raced by, because I feel like even the film knows the more interesting story is Hampton's. So when you do get those character moments, it's very vague. It kind of reminds me of the conversation we had about the little things about Rami Malek's character. How it seems like they want the audience to care, but they're not doing the legwork. They're not putting enough scenes of pathos there for O'Neill to make you realize, oh shit, he's having second thoughts about this. Instead, they basically put the entire onus of that emotional shift on his acting. The one time where I think it actually works is the last scene in the movie, right before they kind of do the recap, kind of then what happened, kind of text on the screen. The way that he kind of timidly reaches for a little spoilers, but this is all based in historical fact, more or less, so it's fine. The way that he kind of reaches for the last envelope of money and kind of only tentatively
the 30 pieces of silver, essentially.
Yeah, and he puts it in his pocket all, like weirdly, and just kind of shaking all over, and is just so, you just can tell he's like so bent out of shape about this whole thing, and this whole thing has changed him forever. And when he asks him that, like when there's that line where he asks him about like, is there still a party? And he goes like, no, there's not a party. Frank Hampton's dead, even though they know that's a lie. And then it's hammered home by the text on screen, which says apparently he kept working for the FBI after that. And that's the one time it works for me. And the reason is because it does what you were saying, which is it basically says this is the metaphor for the fact that this doesn't end, is that this kept going.
Right. I mean,
but
you need that legwork though,
yeah,
to get to that moment of showing that, which is why you have so much of that conflict between O'Neill and the informant,
but there's not,
or O'Neill and the FBI.
But again,
you need to establish that connection of their work friendship.
You know what they could, I think what would have made it work more clear is if O'Neill had a confidant within the Panthers, because every scene is always him at odds with that every character building scene for his character is him as at odds with somebody instead of making a friend, right?
Well, it's the odds to gain trust, and
exactly, but
given into him become the head security,
right? But what I'm saying though is it's easier for an audience to understand if he has somebody to basically be like, oh, but I'm feeling weird about this, that isn't the FBI informant, right?
I see what you're saying,
because that's, I think, the thing the piece that's missing for me is the piece that explains that has allows the character to explain more about what, have an opportunity to say the things that you just see on his face.
Yeah, but that's what good acting is. You can tell what's on his face. You can read them from those expressions.
But
also, if you verbally say what you're feeling, yes, it's easier for the audience to understand, but you have to be saying it to someone, and then they become a part of the overarching lie that he's telling.
You're right, but the reason why I want these things is because this is everything that they do with Fred Hampton. And it's why that story works so well. And it's why, because he doesn't only act his butt off in this movie, but Daniel Kaluuya actually has time to be a character, whereas the movie, because again, I think the movie is just more naturally fascinated in that character and just his presence on screen, that you do kind of lose that part of the movie for O'Neill. That's all I'm saying, is that I feel like it's so heavy tipped in the direction of Kaluuya's character that to have the movie's lead actor be the other guy is a choice. It's a choice that maybe they had to make the movie that they wanted to do, but is still a choice nonetheless.
Right, but that choice, like I said, goes heavily into the arc of the character who has the greatest distance to go.
Yeah.
When we start the movie, Kaluuya is already there. He's already being hailed as the Black Messiah. You can't go any further than that.
Yeah.
So that would be a different film then of his rise to power, how he became an influential figure. If that's the movie you want, that's not this film.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like the movie you want.
I don't know if it's the movie I want. I'm just saying that
you want the more fascinating story of that.
No, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I want a different movie. I'm saying that this movie, I think, would be better and even stronger than it already is. And I think it's a very good movie if they spent more time with both of those characters. I think if the balance was more even, is what I'm saying.
I think what you're saying is that there's not enough time between those two main characters to be confided into each other.
Maybe that's what you do. And maybe they avoided that because that may not have been historically accurate. Because if Fred was too close to Bill, then it would have been less effective for him to do what he ends up doing, right?
You would have a greater portrayal, yes.
Yeah.
But the choice wouldn't have been as easy as it would have seemed. Because you're right. It does seem like the FBI is like, go do this. Mm-hmm. He just goes and does it. There's no there's not a really big internal conflict that you have.
Yeah.
Because
all
it
you
gets
get,
executed.
All you get is in the acting. All you get is the way that and he's very good at it too.
Yeah.
Is like the way that he's kind of evolves through the film is fun, but it's all visual. It's all like, oh, he's making so much money on the side now that he can afford to wear this like super expensive getup when he meets the FBI agent in the restaurant. It's like, oh, they're meeting at the restaurant again. Like it escalates visually. And then they do also, I want to get your kind of take on the one scene in this movie that seems like it's from another movie, which is where he encounters the guy at the bar.
Oh, Lil Ray?
Yeah, what is your take on that? Because it, like I said, it seemed like it was like, I get why they did it ultimately thematically, but for a movie so based in historical reality, it seemed like a very strange choice.
Because that was him basically confronting himself. Another Black person trying to take down another Black person.
Yeah.
It was no longer the white FBI
right.
telling him what to do. It was a fellow Black person telling him what to do.
You know, I'm not going to, put my shoes too much in the writers of this film, but if I was, though, that scene definitely has like made me think that, oh, this is the scene that they put in when they realized that they didn't have an explanation for the thing he was going through. And they needed to visualize it. Maybe. I just thought it was kind of, like I said, kind of came out from left field a little bit.
Oh, no, that's why that's why he had him chase him down at the right after that to say, like, are you the FBI? Are you the police? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, is this my job? Or are you just some random person? And then when he gives him the badge, it's like, that's when like everything clicks, like they own him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he didn't already know a certain like amount of that already, which I'm sure he did.
Or if you couldn't gather that from the title.
Yes. Again, the title does a lot of work here.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yes, great job on the naming. It's very easy to follow when you know what's gonna happen.
Maybe it's a little on the nose, but I get why. It is what it is.
Yeah, but it's still a powerful message. I mean, just in the title alone.
So yeah, sorry, I kind of hijacked this conversation, but I don't know. How'd you kind of feel about it overall? Did you have anything you specifically wanted to talk about?
I mean, can we talk more about the acting? Because
I know. Yeah, no, like seriously, just
nominations all across the board here, even to Daniela. What's her name?
Oh, yeah. What is her name?
Yep. Yeah, the girlfriend.
Yes, is fantastic also in this movie. Their scenes together with her and Fallujah are really good. Again,
Deborah Johnson, or sorry, Dominique Fishback.
Yeah, Dominique Fishback. Again, so much character stuff comes out of those scenes that you do not get with anybody else in this movie. It allows the way that they are allowed to bounce off each other is, I think, part of the reason why his story is so interesting in this movie.
Right. And just everyone gives so much emotion on their faces.
Yeah.
It's just, even when they're not saying anything, you just feel the dread, the suspense, the height of what it is they're trying to overcome. It's just such good acting, and put everyone up there for nominations easily.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it really a ensemble film because it's really those three, and then there's bit players outside of that.
Right, like Jesse Plemons, the FBI agent.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't really care for his performance here. It's very much like, this is what you expected when you're playing an FBI agent kind of thing.
He does have some inner turmoil scenes. But not a whole lot.
The Martin Sheen stuff is a little strange, I will say.
President Bartlett.
I get why you need Hoover in this film, like for context, but the way they do it is very strange.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but I don't know. I think what I'm saying is that there's a lot of weird choices in this movie that I think maybe have the potential to distract from how good the core of it is. I think there's something so good here that maybe stuff on the edges of it that doesn't belong, like, is potentially distracting.
Maybe it's just distracting for you.
Maybe.
Because I wasn't distracted at all.
Fair enough. But yeah, I say this is a definite recommend. If you have
the
HBO
first
Max.
home run that HBO Max has had.
Yeah. And you're right. I think you're going to see this in award season. I would not go as far to say this is your front runner for at least a Best Picture conversation. I know some people probably will say that. I am not ready to make that call. I don't think it's that strong.
I believe Mank may have a better because old Hollywood loves Hollywood.
Yeah, that's true. But I watched 10 minutes of that thing and could not get myself to care. Right. So I don't know. I don't know if we have even talked about that on this podcast, but I tried to watch Mank.
All right. Well, I've yet to watch that. So
I hated how that movie was written in its first 10 minutes. I was just like, I do not want to listen to this dialogue anymore. So your mileage may vary. But yeah, I do not think it's a front runner, but I definitely think this is your front runner for supporting actor in a landslide. I think that Fallujah's performance is going to be one of those that we're going to be talking about for a while.
Masterclass in acting.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, anything else to say about Judas and the Black Messiah before we move on?
Nope. Just go watch it.
Go watch it. If you have HBO Max, don't go to a movie theater unless it's a drive-in. But if you have HBO Max, check it out.
Right.
That's my recommendation.
And if you still have HBO Max from Wonder Woman, yes, you should, because
a reason to get back on.
Like a 6-month deal.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's it for movies, we can safely move on to television, and we always start the television section with the Sports Corner.
Sports.
Yeah, so we're kind of in the post-Super Bowl doldrums, but sports are still happening. First up in the world of tennis, Novak Djokovic.
You always do this. Djokovic.
Oh my gosh. I always pronounce the D.
Yep. Djokovic.
I just don't like saying that.
Djokovic?
Yeah, I don't like saying Djokovic. It sounds like something else. Their career record in the 4 tennis majors is now 300-45. You heard me right. 300 wins, 45 losses, making him the only man other than Roger Federer, who has a record of 362-59, to compile 300 wins. So
granted that to win a tournament, you need 10 wins.
Yeah. So that's a lot of tournaments.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Like 8 to 10 wins, roughly, for the match. And 300. That's a lot. A lot of games. People have done that. So congratulations.
That's a whole lot of love.
That's a tennis joke. At love. Yes.
That's a tennis joke. In other sports, you mentioned that it was Daytona weekend, and we have a winner, folks. Michael McDowell, not that one, won Daytona after 25 cars wrecked out.
Yes, and
this
Michael
must have been
McDowell,
fun to watch.
So there's a wreck at 15 laps in, and it caused a 4-hour delay.
Oof.
I mean, it wasn't that bad. There was some rain immediately after it, but if you're watching, from the time the wreck happened, nobody raced a single lap until 4 hours later.
Oh man, that's rough.
And then Michael McDowell actually pushed the car. He was in third place going into the last lap around the final turn, pushed the car in front of him to push into the car in first place, or had them both spin out in opposite direction and peel out for him to go right through to the victory.
That's now that's pod racing.
Also, because it was brought up several times constantly.
Okay.
This was the 20th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt Sr. crashing and then dying at Daytona.
Oh, yeah.
That happened 20 years ago.
Yikes.
But there is some good news. Since that happened, every single NASCAR race, including the 25 wrecks that we've had in Daytona today or on Sunday. 0 deaths since that happened 20 years ago.
Wow, that's great.
NASCAR has stepped up its safety since then, and NASCAR, there's wrecks at every single turn possibly, and even like the highlights of wrecks look terrible and cars bursting into flames. 0 deaths in 20 years.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when something that horrific happens, you have to do something.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that they did it and have remained effective.
Yep. It just shows rules and regulations matter.
They do.
Texas.
Oh, don't drag Texas right now. They're
I would say drag them through the mud, but it's currently covered in snow.
Yeah, no. We should mention real quick for all the people in Texas and elsewhere who are affected by the horrible winter storms happening right now. We hope you stay safe and warm.
Yes.
Because your government is dropping the ball on helping you. So yes, stay safe, everybody. Anyway.
Yes, stay warm. Go find warmth. This may not be over yet.
If you have a generator, don't use it indoors. You make sure your generator is used outside, at least 20 feet away from your home. It could cause vapors that you cannot even smell that could kill you in minutes if used in a garage. So just keep that in mind, people. Anyway, onto some lighter fare and other sports.
So if you want to get away from the winter.
Yeah. Well, spring training is almost around the corner for baseball. Pitchers and catchers are reporting right now. So get ready. It is almost upon us. The season that we've all been waiting for, at least in this household. I have a statement, I think, that was made earlier this week by a friend of the show and roommate that hockey season might as well be done, and baseball season is the real thing we're excited for.
Yes, having done fantasy basketball, I can say I'm pretty burnt out of watching basketball.
There's a lot of basketball, especially since there was like a 2-month break or something like that.
Yes, and we've yet to hit the All-Star break for NBA.
Right.
That being said, NBA All-Star voting is still happening.
Yeah.
So get your votes in. But yeah, we haven't hit that break yet for the All-Star break. So lots of basketball.
Light is almost at the end of the tunnel for those, but we have baseball to look forward to after that.
Yes.
But for now,
for cactus and grapefruit leagues, as you said, pitchers and catchers report today. All other players report next week.
Cool.
And then games will start in 2 weeks, which would be March.
Looking forward to March for all of that fun. All right. Anything else in sports before we can move on to television news?
Hockey is still happening. The Olympics are trying to get the 2022 Winter Olympics canceled out of China for the genocide that is currently going on.
Yeah, not great.
But yeah, that's about
it's maybe a can of worms we do not have time to get into.
No.
But yes, it may decide the fate of those Olympics as well. So
right, and
it might be a while until we have another
still pushing
Olympics.
forward with the 2021 Olympics, so
we'll see. We'll see. All right. Anything else? Sports. Last call before we move on.
Nope.
Okay. Let's move on into television news then. We have a couple stories here about casting or potential recasting. First up in casting news is HBO's The Last of Us, which of course, an adaptation from the video game of the same name. Mm-hmm. We knew that this was happening with the game director Neil Druckmann helping with the script, but now we know some other details about the series.
Yeah,
they've set their talent.
Some key players have finally been announced.
Yes. Craig Mazin, him of Chernobyl fame, is penning the script with Neil Druckmann, and Russian filmmaker Kantemir Balagov, who I guess directed something called Beanpole. I'm not familiar.
Sundance favorite Beanpole.
Got it. Has been tapped to direct the pilot. As for the cast, Bella Ramsey of Game of Thrones will play Ellie, and Pedro Pascal, which you have here, from Wonder Woman 1984. I think most people will now know him from The Mandalorian.
But he was also in Game of Thrones.
Yes, will be your Joel. I guess it's okay casting. I think that they're fine choices.
There were rumors early on that
Yes.
Mahershala Ali was in talks to play the titular character.
That would have been a very interesting take on Joel. But I could understand why at the last minute they were like, let's just do it this way. And Pedro Pascal is a name that you get people's eyeballs on your project for right now. So I don't blame HBO for going with what works.
Yep.
But I still don't know if this is something that I want to see or want to relive. Because if anybody listening to this has played the opening few minutes of The Last of Us 1, it's that story starts out real rough, doesn't it? And I don't know if I'm ready for that again.
I'm not sure if you're going to start out that way, if that's the flashback you get throughout the first episode.
I wonder. I don't know what they're going to, again, just like the Borderlands adaptation, we're not sure if this is going to be retelling of the first game. We don't know if it's going to be before, after, during, any of that. So I don't know.
I don't know. Ready for some guitars lessons.
I'm always ready for some acoustic guitar. So no date on its premiere though, but or if it will just be on HBO Max, my money would be this is probably on HBO proper and HBO Max, seeing as they've got the names behind it.
I think this will premiere next year along with House of Dragons, as a way to get people to stay on HBO.
On HBO. This will be their every 6 months reminder, hey, so keep your subscription, don't cancel yet.
Right. Much like Disney Plus is currently doing with this entire year of Marvel. Every week is currently slated for something new Marvel to be released.
By the way, I am counting the freaking days till WandaVision is done because I just so badly want to talk about it.
We cannot talk about WandaVision until it is completed. But
the structure of this podcast does not allow us.
This is our reminder to tell people,
yes,
if you haven't been watching WandaVision because the first 2 episodes kind of irked you the wrong way,
you should still be watching WandaVision.
Yeah.
That thing has gone some places and it will continue. It looks like going some places.
I'm loving all the TV references.
Wow. Yeah. Oh man, we cannot talk about it. We have to wait till it's over, but okay.
Let's move on. Just for people to know, it's currently underlined in our future notes as possible show of the year.
It might be. I don't blame you. I didn't know that. I don't blame you. Like, I didn't know that you had done that, but I'm right there with you, man. It does some stuff that we need to talk about.
Oh, yeah. No, I have a separate doc of where I keep all our news.
Yeah.
So when we look back, like, oh, yeah, that happened. And then a separate little subsection for all the thoughts that we talk about. And I kind of go, as we go, like, highlight and underline, like, oh, this was really good. This was really good. Because sometimes you might forget by the time you get to the end of the year.
Yeah.
This has been like double underlined, triple highlighted.
Yeah. No, we'll have that conversation in a few weeks. But for now, let's talk about another Disney Plus show and some decisions that have been made about its cast. Because this was the television story of the week, bar none.
So technically, this happened like right after, while we were recording last week's episode, but we couldn't get to it because we were literally recording as the news was happening at 5:00.
Yes. Cast member of The Mandalorian, Gina Carano, was fired from The Mandalorian following a recent controversial post on Instagram suggesting that being a Republican in the U.S. is similar to being Jewish in Nazi Germany, unquote. Oh. That is not me saying that. That is Gina Carano's words. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, though this is a quote, I guess, from Lucasfilm, nonetheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities were abhorrent and unacceptable. So she's been dropped completely from The Mandalorian, and it seems like she will be recast, according to newer information that kind of came out. Alongside her exit from the series, she was also dropped by her talent agency, UTA, due to the offensive nature of her comments. Hasbro has also weighed in on the discontinuation of the Cara Dune character, and says that there are no current plans to create more action figures featuring her likeness. She has since taken up a starring role in Ben Shapiro's upcoming film. Yeah, always a great turn in your career when you end up working with Ben Shapiro, huh? For the Daily Wire.
Mullen about that.
Yeah, so Jesus Christ, what a change of pace in that one. Yeah, this blew up. And
so this wasn't her first offense, as people have pointed out, that back when she first appeared in season 1 of The Mandalorian, following its conclusion, that people had dredged up some stuff from her social media posts, as the internet does when a new darling comes along and people want to knock them down. It's okay, what have you done in the past? And yeah, she said some stuff that very right-leaning stuff, but nothing that offensive. So she did come out and say that she would work on it. Even Pedro Pascal and creator John I am fumbling over my words here.
We'll get there.
I'll get there eventually.
One real quick thing before that I will say about her statement is that this actually is not, she's not the first person to say this exact sentence. Fun fact, you know what other notable right-leaning celebrity has said that sentence before in a, I believe, a talk show format?
Who?
Home Improvement's own Tim Allen. I believe he said this a while ago, actually. So the fact that it's kind of resurfaced is kind of strange, but yeah. Seems like a popular thought process among the conservatives in Hollywood, which is worrying, if you ask me.
Yeah. So Pedro Pascal and Jon Favreau kind of came to her defense when these initial comments came out at the end of season 1, saying that this is not who she is anymore. She will change, and kind of basically put her on a tight leash, saying, people are on watch with you.
Yeah.
Please keep what you say if you want to keep your job.
And this
and
was,
kind of vouch for her to appear in season 2, which she had an even bigger role. And as the Disney press conference went on at the end of 2020, kind of may have hinted at her being in a starring vehicle for her own show of Knights of the New Republic.
So, which brings up a good point. You are a viewer of The Mandalorian. Do you think that this will put a potential wrench in some of the storytelling that they were doing this season?
With her?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like her absence, will that make an impact large enough to care about on the series moving forward?
No, because they brought in some stronger characters since then.
I mean, I didn't think so, but I wanted to ask, make sure, because my understanding about that show is even though it does have some serialized elements, it's mostly compartmentalized.
Yeah, there are serialized like 2-3 stories, like episodes that connect to each other. But to go from like the first episode to the last episode, it is a full journey that involves you meeting several different characters, several different people. So missing her out of this, not that big of a deal, even though she did form a friendship with the Mandalorian, like a great bounty hunter friendship.
That's very easily like, I wonder what she's doing. Well, I guess I'm not talking to her anytime soon.
Yep.
Or like I said, since news did come out,
I reached out, she never got back.
Yeah, exactly. She went out to get space cigarettes and never saw her again. But no, like I said, though, earlier, is that it does seem like there is a strongly supported rumor that they will be recasting the role. So that could keep the character in the universe.
Yeah, I could see recasting. Then you have to like kind of explain it away with she was involved in a deep crash and this is how we were able to Mass Effect reconstruct her face
I got one for you. It's like, how come she always wears a helmet now? That's weird, right? Like she didn't used to always wear a helmet. Now she always wears a helmet.
No, because you're already doing that with the Mandalorian. You can't do that to another character.
Was kind of the joke. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Unfortunate for the cast and crew who didn't have anything to do with this, but But man, yeah, you can't get away with making a comparison like that and think that everything's going to be cool. Is I think the lesson here, and I hope she learned something from this experience.
Yeah, you shouldn't compare your religious ideals to literal people's heritage.
I think we should just straight up be even more clear about this, more direct. Don't compare anything to the Holocaust, just period. Just as a good way to live your life, I think, is a good general rule, I think, is just never do that. Never do that. Just don't do that. It's always bad. It's always
Also,
bad. Just don't.
Don't deny the Holocaust either.
That too. It's also good advice, good life advice here from the Media Boat Podcast. All right.
We're not a history podcast, but they happen.
But today we definitely feel like one, because let's pivot into a story that's equally as dark, because we have an unprecedented third television story that you snuck in here. Not unprecedented, I'm sure.
Hey, you're going to sneak in a different story as well.
We used to do
later.
4. Yeah, we used to do 4 stories each back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Yet our podcasts are still 2 hours long.
That's because we have conversations like this. We could talk more about them rather than kind of like pushing it aside as we barrel through 4 stories.
I'm glad. In fact, I wish there was a version of this podcast where we could spend even more time. But them's the breaks. Anyway.
Then's the time cuts of people's attentions of 2 hours.
But yeah, that would involve us having to record on like Saturdays, which I'm not sure either of us want to do.
No, but that does bring up the point that we will be needing to record on Saturdays as March Madness is coming up.
We'll have that conversation after podcast. We'll get there. Anyway.
I'm dropping that now.
March is going to be mad for all sorts of reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Our second story, which also deals with some not so great material, takes us to The Bachelor, which is ongoing.
Which is also owned by ABC.
Yes.
Or Disney on ABC.
Disney's having a week here. So Chris Harrison will be, host of The Bachelor, will be stepping aside, he says, for an unspecified period of time, and will not appear on the After the Final Rose live special, and which takes place after the show's season finale. Mm-hmm. In an interview, Chris Harrison and former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay were discussing photos that recently emerged of Rachel Kirkconnell, the current frontrunner of the season's The Bachelor. The photos, for which Kirkconnell has come under scrutiny, showed the 24-year-old attending an antebellum plantation-themed fraternity formal. Yikes. In 2018. The photos drew a reaction on social media due to the painful and racist history of the South before the Civil War, as you might imagine. Chris Harrison defended Kirkconnell's reputation, saying the photos were taken a long time ago. He also spoke out against cancel culture, because of course he did. All right, so let's unpack kind of what's going on here. So this is kind of a dual story, because you also have the story about this competitor on The Bachelor. These photos, yes, that's not great. Obviously, there's a repeated unfortunate history of the South using the iconography of either the Civil War era or the post-Civil War era, the antebellum era in cultural events. And so this is just photo evidence that she happened to be involved in a school that themed their event based on this. Yeah. In 2018, yes, probably too late to do this. At all is probably a good rule as well, to never do this. But that being said, especially not, within the last few years. Like, just do a regular ass theme, like Under the Sea. Like, I don't know, there's so many themes that you could possibly do for events like this. It's not, necessary to dredge up these racially charged historical events and eras for your school events. So yeah, not great. And I get why this would have a reaction on social media. Now, the second prong here is Chris Harrison, and that's a little harder to defend, right?
Well, that's the indefensible right there. Is Chris
Harrison. The indefensible part, because he's not, doing what he should have said and just been like, I'm not involved. Instead, he basically threw himself in front of the social media bus and immediately was like, oh no, it's like, like she's not that person. She's, she's still a great girl and all this stuff. And also I think we're too quick to judge people based on past things. It's like, dude, you didn't have to do any of this.
Did you listen to the clip?
No, but is that basically what happened?
That's basically what happened.
See, that's the thing, is that the only reason why I know this is because this has happened so many times at this point. Is that these people who should know better, who don't have to do this to themselves, to their careers, will put themselves in the line of fire for no reason and say these dumb opinions. And yes, as you guys probably have established at this point, if you guys listen to this podcast, obviously the cancel culture discussion is a stupid discussion. What it really means is people are being held accountable for the stupid things that they've done or been involved with. And you know what? That's probably a net positive. We're probably getting to a point where if you're open about these things, and you want to apologize, then apologize. Don't double down on your bad behavior. Chris Harrison here had the choice where he could have been like, you know what? I'm not involved with this. I'm just the host. But the fact that he chose to put himself in this situation makes you have a lot of questions about Chris Harrison that you didn't have before.
Right. And it's not cancel culture. It's accountability culture.
Yeah.
It's taking accountability for their actions, however bad they may be, because as kids, we do dumb stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Social media, internet is permanent. We kind of know that from literally living it. So
it reminds me of the story that we did about the James Gunn, about the tweets, right. And how they were a decade ago, and that. But the difference between that and something like this, and this comes up a lot because people often show the James Gunn example as, oh, but you guys said this about James Gunn when you're saying this about this other guy. And it's like, the difference is that James Gunn very quickly was like, no, I'm not that person anymore. This is when I was young and stupid, and I am trying my hardest to be a better person now, and I've transformed.
Right. He came out with a statement saying that he doesn't believe in those tweets anymore, that he did it for the shock value.
Right.
That he's changed and he looks forward to being a better person. Yeah.
That is very different activity than somebody who is very quick to be defensive. Right. And be like, oh, no, this is still good. I'm still not I think what I'm saying is that even though he didn't explicitly say that he believes these statements or the situation, or that he's supportive of it, the fact that he didn't is telling. It says a lot potentially about him, that he was willing to put his career on the line for this. I don't know. You just keep seeing this stuff. You just keep seeing people do this in the public eye, and it just makes me wonder, why are you doing this?
I'll take his job.
Yeah, I guess there's an opening for Bachelor hosts. So you are cool with being in a room with a lot of people who are all very egotistical and okay with holding roses for a long period of time, then hey, there's a job for you.
I've been to a lot of weddings that do that, yes.
Yeah, you said I've been to a wedding before. I think I qualify.
But yeah, this also comes at the behest of the current Bachelor being Black.
Yeah, and just coincidentally.
And the 25 out of the 30 women being minorities on the current season.
So if you're ABC, this is not a good look.
Right.
Any part of this is not a good look for your season. Yeah, just a mess. Yeah. So I guess the lesson to take out here is that, hey, if you're in the South and you're still having themed parties like this, maybe stop doing that. Just saying.
Okay, that being said, real quick, I know we skipped sports, but this will just wrap up everything. Kyle Larson, who, as we all remember from last summer, said the N-word during iRacing and was basically kicked off of NASCAR.
Yeah.
At the beginning of Daytona, in the lead up, and then even during the rain delay, they replayed it. He did an interview titled uncomfortable conversations with the black person.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that title though, but I kind of winced too. But when they said it, my first thought in my mind was, they must be talking about Kyle Larson, and then immediately just showed his face, Kyle Larson. It was like, we're doing this. We're addressing it head on.
Wow.
This is exactly what we need to do as Daytona and as NASCAR to get people behind Kyle Larson back in NASCAR.
Right. Did it work?
Did it work? It kind of felt like a faint apology.
Yeah, but as you would expect.
But for a 10-minute segment of just what is apologizing, what he learned from his experience, how he learned it, what he plans to do going forward, it did its job of trying to get people on the good side of Kyle Larson again.
They made an effort. The organization made an effort to do it. And the fact that he was game for it is telling, I guess, that he's willing to work on an element of himself. That's great.
Yeah.
And honestly, 10 minutes is probably longer than a lot of people who say the stupid shit take, to actually think about their apology. So, hey.
I mean, the interview was probably longer, but to get down to 10 minutes, you kind of need like an hour worth of footage to do that.
I mean, And again, I want to make clear, I'm very cognizant of the people that we are, and we are a lot of things, but we are not black. So yeah, between this and our conversation that we had about Judas and the Black Messiah, we do realize that we're not maybe the best people to talk about these kind of things, but we're trying.
We're not the all voice for it, but as we said at the beginning, these are our thoughts and opinions on these kind of things.
And like I said, one of the mission statements that we started this podcast with, even though it's been 6 years, we still haven't done anything about this, is to widen our host pool eventually at some point to include other perspectives. And I'm still working on it. A pandemic kind of put a wrench in some of that. And so, that will be an eventual goal of this podcast, but we'll get there someday.
Yes. Eventual 4-person panel here.
Yeah, maybe. That was the original idea.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't supposed to just be us two forever.
I mean, we've kept it going, so.
Yeah, somehow. Anyways,
right. Let's talk about some TV.
On that note, let's do what we do best and talk about cancellations and renewals.
No, we have thoughts.
Oh, we do have thoughts before we get there. Never mind, I jumped the gun. For some reason, I was thinking thoughts after cancellations and renewals.
It's weird because in the show doc, it's thoughts before cancellations.
Yeah, which I think is your mistake. Just saying. No, I don't think it is, actually. I think you're right. We do have to talk about thoughts. We do have some thoughts. We watched television this week.
All right, so we watched 2 of these shows, and then I watched the CBS shows.
Yeah, you want to talk about the CBS shows before we jump in on NBC?
Out of the way first.
Yeah,
because they are very procedural.
Yes, procedural. That's why I did not watch them.
So, last week, no, scratch that. 2 weeks ago. No, wait, shit.
No, last weekend. Yeah, it was just last weekend. It is Wednesday.
Yes, the 7th.
It's felt like it's been a week, right?
Yes. So after the 7th, after the Super Bowl, was the premiere of The Equalizer.
Yes, Queen Latifah is the Equalizer.
After the Super Bowl because, that's what I do. But we didn't talk about it last week because that initial pilot episode was all set up of Queen Latifah's character basically being retired from the CIA and doesn't know what to do with her life anymore. So having the special set of skills, decides to, after an unfortunate event, set up a message board for people who can't help themselves or feel like they can't go to the police or turn to the police, that she will help them in any way that she can.
She will help equalize the situation, if you will.
Yes, an equalizer. And that's why I kind of waited for episode 2 to come out to see how they would work.
Yeah.
It works kind of fine. If you like Scorpion, or sorry, / Scorpion.
Yeah, / Scorpion.
No, you're thinking of / hack dot Jew. I think just
I don't know how they stylized it, but it was weird. Anyways, Scorpion.
No, it's like the carrot brackets. That's what you're thinking of. Scorpion.
Scorpion. Stupid. It's just
Wet
for
Pet San
us.
Pablo.
No one's gonna understand that.
You will if you Google Wet Pet San Pablo.
Anyway.
So it's kind of the same thing where it's a team of 3, but then eventually 5. Inside FBI informant, inside a CIA person, former CIA person, 1 hacker, 1 sniper / shooter / weapons expert, all working together to help people who can't help themselves. Very proceduralized. You'll get your episode fix very quickly. I can easily see this thing going for several years because it has a pretty good cast. I like everyone in this cast.
Yeah.
Even Queen Latifah, who I didn't quite peg for a former CIA agent, but
sure, why not?
Sure, why not? Some good editing, some good directing can do that for some good actors, and yeah, she's a good actor.
Yeah, Queen Latifah, fresh off of being the narrator in Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yes, where she voice acted.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I like Queen Latifah. I almost watched this, but then I was like, do I actually want to watch this show? And I was like, no, probably not.
So it doesn't necessarily do anything bad.
Yeah.
Like to jump the shark quite
It's just
yet.
one of those.
It's just one of those where you know what to expect, but it's a good one of those where you know what to expect.
I feel like we're gonna have that same kind of thing to say about some other shows we'll talk about in a little bit too, because this was seems like a very strong week of it's one of those, but it's a good one of those.
Yeah. So if you like Queen Latifah or you like the kind of like FBI, CIA, Scorpion, extra team hack cobbled together, then yeah, The Equalizer is kind of for you. Yeah. I kind of want to like equate it to Leverage when that show was on TNT.
Sure.
But Leverage was more fun. This is a bit more serious.
Okay. Which is weird because you would think that with Queen Latifah, this would be the fun one, but I guess not.
It's not quite, because Leverage was like all fun, all heist, no breaks.
It was the kind of those procedurals that you make for cable, which is a little bit lighter.
Right. And this one seems a little bit more serious tone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would make it up there. Yeah, good suggestion for The Equalizer. I think it had a good lead-in with the Super Bowl, and it'll keep people watching it. Expect this to be renewed. I'll say probably 6-8 years.
Wow. Okay, that's bold. Bold prediction.
Bold, but I also assume CBS won't have a whole lot of other shows down their pipeline.
They'll need it. Yeah,
they'll need it.
They'll need it for a little bit. Something
so
reliable.
Yes, it does kind of fall into that same reboot that they've been doing with like Hawaii Five-0, MacGyver, this exact same thing. So
this is what you call a base hit and not a home run, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, but you're going to get years out of television out of this.
Exactly.
Much like you did with
it's not about the instant score. It's about building to building.
This is not an award show type show. This is, you're going to watch CBS because this is a good program to watch, and you're not going to be bored.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. Also, hey, keep Queen Latifah getting a paycheck.
Yep.
Love to see it. You also watch something else.
Okay.
Unless I'm guessing you enjoyed this one slightly less.
Slightly less. So we had Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
We had Red Dragon.
Yeah, those things exist.
So those are some solid films. We had Hannibal on NBC.
Sure.
Which was the prequel to those films.
Yeah. But what are we missing?
But we're missing to the after effect, though.
Okay.
What happened after Silence of the Lambs? What happened to Clarice after that? How was she like thrust into like the spotlight because she captured the killer? She's like famous now, right?
Sure.
Well, let's explore that, shall we? In the new CBS show Clarice.
Okay.
And how solving that kind of crime, being a part of it, of Buffalo Bill and serial killers, kind of might mess with your brain a little bit.
You don't say.
Kind of like some post-traumatic syndrome.
Yeah, like it might have lasting effects or something. Yeah.
The FBI might not want you back on the case so quickly.
You wouldn't think.
Or would they? Because they need a high-profile name in front of it as the face, even though you don't want to be the face.
Oh, twist. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the setup for this?
So that's the setup. This will be a season-long mystery.
So you should say this is called Clarice.
Yeah. Well,
where's this airing?
Clarice on CBS.
CBS.
So this will be a season-long type thing where you're not going to get a monster of the week solved case, even though it kind of hints at that initially, but rather that there's a bigger case going on because you're dealing with, in the first episode, a copycat and someone who's basically telling them what to do rather than this is the killer.
Quick establishing question. Is this explicitly a spinoff of Hannibal, of that universe, or is this unrelated to Hannibal, but related to the film universe? Or
it seems like it's more related to the film universe than it is to Hannibal on NBC.
Got
it. The lead character they have does a really great Jodie Foster impression.
I guess you gotta, if you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And I'd say that's pretty much what it's got going for it. Cal Penn's in it, is other FBI agent.
Okay.
It's fine for now. It's only had one episode, but seems like it can get dark. So if you missed your Hannibal fix on NBC, you might find it here in Clarice.
Is it as violent?
It can be.
Okay.
I mean, you're dealing a lot more with blood.
Well, yeah.
Or like dead bodies than you are with like live
I guess
action.
Gory is probably the better term than violent.
Gory, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know that was one of the things people liked.
If you want violence, the Equalizer is violence.
Yeah. But I mean, that's why
the gore.
Every time somebody would tell me something about Hannibal, it was always about like, oh, and this super messed up thing happened. And I was like, oh,
right.
Don't want to watch that show. But I guess that's what people like potentially about this too.
Yeah, not my cup of tea. I'm not going to follow this one, but
no,
it's definitely for people. I mean, it depends how long they can keep it going with the FBI agent, Clarice. Yeah, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. Fair enough. So this is maybe a hesitant.
That's
not a recommend. Okay. You have one more thing to talk about before we get to the two that we both watched.
Oh, I could say that for the end though, because it's real quick.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then let's dive in then to the two that we've both watched here on NBC this week.
Yeah, because NBC also had premiere TV.
Thank
this
you
was
for
supposed
your
to all be fall TV until pandemic happened, and now we're back to new TV. And for those of you on YouTube, yes, I am throwing these weird quotes all the way around.
Yeah.
Because it's like stuff that was in the can or quickly turned around.
Yeah. But honestly, knowing all of that and given the premises of both of these shows, better than you'd imagine they would be in both cases. I don't know if that's where you landed on this, but that's kind of where I landed on these. So which one do you start with?
Let's start in the order that they premiered in, with Young Rock taking the 8:00 slot.
Yeah. So as the name kind of implies, and
as
I'm sure
the trailers kind of implied everywhere that you saw.
Marketing. So this is basically, hey, what if The Rock, in some far-flung future that may actually be too far-flung for when it actually will happen in real life, is running for president, and he's taking an interview and he's explaining things about his life to give context for like the person he used to be when he was younger, and thus Young Rock.
It's a no holds barred, anything goes type of interview where anything goes, and he gets into some details.
So that's the framing device, but beyond the framing device, it seems like what they actually want to do here is, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we just wrote a bunch of sketches about The Rock growing up? Because that's what this show actually is. I think I see why you need the framing device, because it allows them to jump forward and back in time at will and tell different stories, instead of them being locked to, this is a show explicitly about him as a kid, like a Everybody Hates Chris kind of show, or explicitly, this is a show about a teenage high school football playing Rock. And so I get why you have to have that framing device, so that way you're allowed to tell all of those stories. but you don't really need a framing device for this. But I see why they did it. And what I'm saying is I don't think it benefits from it, but I get why it exists.
So, do you remember the CBS show starring Bobby Moynihan, Me, Myself, and I?
Yeah, vaguely. I never actually watched it, but
we talked about it on this podcast.
Yeah, we talked about it on this podcast. You did not have good things to say about it.
I did not have good things to say about it.
Nor did anybody.
Because it only lasted a season, if it even made it to the end of the season.
Yeah.
But this is very similar to that, but done in an NBC style, fun, comedic way.
Yeah.
Where you take the initial part of the kid, of young Rock, when he's a kid, and given a lesson from his dad. Fast forward to him in high school, trying to apply said lesson and maybe not getting the whole gist of it. Only to be summarized into his college age of him making it work for him and understanding what it is that his dad was trying to tell him all those years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least that's the premise for the first episode. Not sure if they're going to keep that premise going.
No,
but
I don't think so.
It's definitely a good framing device of here's the kid learning it. Here he is trying to apply it. And then here he is trying to master it.
Yeah, it's really smart to do it this way because it creates it's basically, as long as it's something that The Rock has either told you, has said or at some point, or told the writers or the creative team or whatever, as long as it's something that's vaguely based in some sort of touchstone of his life, you will have ideas for years potentially. Like the limit is literally to the limit of Rock's own memory at a certain point. And so it's actually kind of a smart idea for a show. Does everything work? Maybe not. I think that some of the moving back and forth, you lose kind of some of that continuity potentially. I think having basically zero overarching story potentially besides what we know about what The Rock eventually does with his career also maybe doesn't make for the most watchable show in the world, but it's fun. It's got that going for it. And I think some of the joke writing is genuinely good. I think there was at least one laugh out loud moment for me, which is definitely more than I got watching Call Me Cat a couple of weeks ago. Right. So it's got that going for it. So I think there's enough cute stuff that they can do with the premise. And I think there's enough talent, it seems like, in the writing staff where they were able to make even a pilot episode for this thing entertaining. So I think there's actually some potential promise here. It's a gimmicky show, but it's a gimmicky show that might work.
And it does a good job in the pilot of getting you, I mean, if The Rock wasn't already so popular, it does a good job of getting you into the show. Even if you, for some reason or another, have never heard of The Rock.
If you've been living under a boulder, per se.
If you're living in a cave, a box of scraps. I think it does a good job of framing it. If someone was trying to unceremoniously run for president and giving a detail of their life,
which is something nobody would actually do. Is the thing that's the other thing is that this premise doesn't actually make sense when you think about it because this would never happen. But
question though, I'm not sure if you know this off the top of your head or not. Does he have siblings?
I don't actually know if that is true.
Because it is framed him as
as an only child, which I don't know if that is actually factual or not. You'd have to look that up. I don't know enough about The Rock's actual life to know. And there is actually something I noticed during the credits that's kind of tucked away at the very end that does make sure to say, hey, even though this is based on a real person's life, they are taking fictitious liberties, which you might imagine that they would. But the fact that The Rock is in this thing and is a producer on this thing, they're not going to stray so far away that it's going to go into ludicrous territory. So I don't think they're going to go as far as to remove entire members of his family. I'm going to guess that they probably aren't going to do that, but I feel like they are having some fun with a lot of elements of his past. So.
Okay, so he does have an elder half brother from his father's first marriage.
But he may have been out of but that would be somebody that wouldn't be in his day-to-day life. So that makes sense. And
an
hey,
elder sister
just like I
from the first
said,
marriage as well. So
just
this
like
is
I said,
technically
though,
his second marriage.
everything, even this, is fodder for future episodes. So I think that's the thing that's actually great about this gimmick. Yes, it's a gimmick, but the cool thing is that it's a gimmick that keeps on giving potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think a lot of people may have tuned in to see like the old wrestler gimmicky come back.
Right. You get that.
Which you can get in future episodes.
And in fact, they know that that's the reason why a lot of people are watching, because they do that tease at the end, which is like, here's what you want. We're going to give you more of it. Right. Which is, hey, remember these classic wrestlers from classic wrestling back when people liked wrestling? Well, here's more of it.
What do you mean back when? It's still liked.
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I think it's got some promise for a show that I was about to write off before I watched. I was actually kind of shocked with how enjoyable it is.
Well, I'm glad you watched it, because I was going to try and sell it on you, because I liked it.
You don't have to, is the good news. I might stick around with it. So we'll see.
Okay. So yeah, that's Media Boat Watch It.
Yeah, that's a new Media Boat Watch It. Also, I'll hedge right now, in my opinion at least, a Media Boat Watch It is the other NBC premiere this week.
Of Kenan from Kenan Thompson. His return to scripted television.
They did it. They did the thing that they probably should have done a long time ago, which is they gave Kenan his own show, which, like, dude, come on. The man's been the glue of your Saturday Night Live cast for over a decade now. Like, at least give him a show. And it took him this long to do it.
Yep, and they named it after himself.
Yes, a classic move. Which I think he deserves it. I think he does. He's that upper echelon, I think, at this point, that he deserves the self-titled sitcom. I mean, if they did it for John Mulaney, then they can do it to Kenan. Hey, remember that?
Hey, we try not to.
Yeah, I'm sure John Mulaney also does. Anyway, hey, remember Whitney?
Yes, I do.
Anyways, but the good news is that unlike those shows, I think Kenan works.
This takes the style of Modern Family, camera and aesthetic wise.
Yeah.
But eliminates all the excess interviews.
I was going to ask you about this. So I was actually going to lead with the positive stuff and then kind of bring this up at the end, but you've already brought it up, so I might as well talk about it now. That's okay. Because yes, you're right. It is kind of distracting how this thing is shot. It's like it's a half measure where it's not quite a multicam show, because it's not a multicam show, or at least actually it might be, but they try to obfuscate the fact that it is. But it's also not in the style of a single cam. It's not so single cam that it feels like a Office, a Parks and Rec, a 30 Rock. It's not, or even a Modern Family, in my opinion. It's this weird halfway point where they switch enough where it feels like a multicam setup, but they never close up. It's always a medium shot. It's such a weird, jarring take at first. It was distracting for me when I first started watching. I was like, this is a weird thing. So it almost like, if it had and it doesn't have a laugh track, which makes you think that...
Right, which is why I went with Modern Family, because it doesn't have a laugh track.
But if it did, though, I feel like it would feel more like a multicam show. But also, if it did, though, I feel like you lose part of the reason why I think that this pilot works as well as it does, is because it's written closer to a single cam show where its pace is fast. Like it's a faster pace show, which means that if you did have that laugh track in there, it would ruin the momentum of a lot of the jokes. So it ends up being in this kind of weird, uncanny valley between the two. But after you get past it, it's not as distracting as it is initially. Like I got to the point where I got over the hump and I was like, I forgot thinking about it. I think as soon as they went to the second set, as soon as they went to the television show set, I stopped thinking about the format, but it's very weird at first.
Yeah, I'm going to need to watch more episodes of this to see if I like it or not, because that was very jarring for me, because it did feel like in the household, it was multicam setup.
You're right.
And then it switched and it's like, oh, we have an outside shot.
Yes.
We have a close in office shot.
Even the outside shot, though, had the vibe of a multicam outside shot.
Right.
It's almost like maybe it was planned to be a multicam show, but because of COVID, they had to pull the ripcord and be like, all right, rewrite the script, put more jokes in because we need filler because there's no laugh track anymore. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's what happened. And then they told the camera people like, okay, move in closer. Let's get a little bit more intimate vibe here because we want to emulate something different now. Because if you zoom out, this is easily a multicam show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when you have COVID and you can't have a live studio audience or a limited one,
you have to make that call.
Right.
Well, production stuff aside, how'd you feel about this as a pilot?
I like the characters.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good show. It does deal with the Disney death, though, of the mom not in the picture.
Yeah, there's that. But I think that the way they present it and make it a character part of him is actually kind of redeems some of that. Yes. And also having her still actually in the show in some format at the end of the episode also kind of makes me feel a little less weird about it. But you're right. It is that.
Yeah, but I mean, it is also a plot device to get the grandpa into, or
the father, the ex-father-in-law, I guess you could say.
Yes. Well, he's the grandpa to the kids.
Yes, but he's not related to Kenan. He is the father of the deceased mother.
Yes, but from the kid's perspective, he's grandpa.
Yes, but you know what I mean. There's a reason why they don't call him that, is because that's not who he is.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then you have brother of Chris Redd.
Coworker also.
Coworker. I assume it's his assistant.
Yeah, it's unclear exactly who he is yet. We'll probably get more of him in future episodes.
Right.
But yeah.
But I'm happy to see Chris Redd working.
Yeah, good for him to get a paycheck. I'm sure Kenan was like, "Hey, I'll help you out."
Yeah.
Got you.
He's like, I was you. You can be my Kel.
Right. Yeah. No. He works in that kind of fashion. Mm-hmm. I think, the most pilot, there are moments where it gets really piloty, where they have to have, very leading dialogue.
Yes.
Which is something actually I was surprised that Young Rock doesn't do as much, but Kenan definitely does, is they need to remind you that it's a pilot with really like clumsy lines like, hey, it's just like this about our dead mom at the beginning and stuff like that. It's where it's very clear, like, oh, this is a line written because this is a pilot.
Right, because we need to establish that mom is dead.
Right.
Or I work here, or why am I up at this hour?
There's the occasional moment where it's weird like that, but ultimately I think it's charming enough where it gets away with it.
Well, like I said, I might need a few more episodes because there are a lot of establishing lines, but as you go on with the series, a lot of that washes away because you'll become more familiar with the characters and the character interactions with each other.
Yeah.
But
just like Young Rock, I think the template here is almost in a way the opposite of Young Rock, because it's not gimmicky at all. It's very traditional, but it feels modern by its writing style. And again, it had just enough laugh out loud moments for me where I was like, all right, okay, they've got a good crew here. Good writing so far, a good ensemble cast, as you mentioned. And it's just enough of a good concept that there is a lot of stories that they could do with a morning show host. Mm-hmm. So it's promising.
Unlike the Young Rock, where I'm on board already, I'll give this my patented 3 episodes and see how I feel.
Get it. I feel actually maybe the opposite of you, where I feel a little bit more confident about Kenan than I do about Young Rock, but I definitely am going to continue watching and see what happens for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. We're talking a lot here.
Yeah. I can't believe, we're already
at an hour and a half, and
an hour and a half,
halfway through.
Yeah. Right. Well, we knew that this was going to be our heavy thoughts half. The second half less so.
Yes.
That means that it's time to move on to
real quickly.
Yes.
Right,
you have one more show.
I have one more show, but it's really fast and it's really easy because it's Fast Foodie.
Aha. What is Fast Foodies?
So, I was bored, or not bored. I didn't want to go to bed. So,
sure. Same.
So I was saying, hey, what else is on TV? And I came across Fast Foodie. I was like, oh, wait, that's fast food. No, this is true TV. This isn't a cooking show. Or is it?
Or is it?
Fast Foodie takes 3 chefs who are the host. They're chefs and they're hosts. They're restaurateurs. They own their own restaurant. But it takes them and it pairs them with a celebrity who loves certain kind of food or like famous food, like a hot dog from Chicago or McDonald's sausage egg McMuffin. Mm-hmm. Round 1 is to recreate it. Your best to recreate that exact food.
Okay.
Like as is, don't add anything to it. Round 2 is to take that food and elevate it into, as they call it, remix it and change it to something that is not that, but has all the flavors and components of it.
This is an existing format. Another show did this, but I can't remember what it is.
And then that's it. And then the celebrity basically hands them the Champion trophy. Yes, Chomp.
Sure.
Yum,
okay.
For the week, and it's like, hey, you won this week's fast foodie thing. And then that's it. It's very simple. It's very late night, low stakes affair. Check it out when your favorite celebrity is on, because some of the foods they make is pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there was a YouTube channel doing something similar to this. But yeah, this format has existed.
The concept is not new.
Right. This is existed.
Yes, it's an existing format, but it's fun late night entertainment on True TV.
Now we can get
into cancellations.
And now we get into cancellations and renewals, our bridge to the second half of the show for y'all. And starting on the top of the pile here, Paramount Plus, the upcoming Paramount Plus, is bringing you a second season of Tuning Out the News. Was this a CBS All Access thing before?
No. Wait, yes, it was. Yes, it was CBS All Access, but because it's all being rebranded to Paramount Plus,
they will be having the second season on there. Mm-hmm. And next up, the other shoe finally dropped on the thing that we knew was coming this whole time. NBC has said that the upcoming 8th season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine will be its last. They also confirmed that it will be a shorter order. A 10-episode season is all we're getting for season 8.
I wonder if this was the producers, because we did talk about this last year during the pandemic and then during the Black Lives Matter movement, that even the cast spoke out and said that they want to address it because they are police.
It is going to be wild to see what they ultimately do with these 10 episodes. I honestly do not envy any of the writers, because what do you do? What possibly do you do with these characters? The good news is they don't have the good news is you don't have a whole lot of loose ends that were left after the last season. They pretty much resolved a lot of storylines with having them get married and there's baby. So it's not like there's a whole lot to do that's left. So they can literally do anything. And I'm really interested to see what they have done.
But we only get 10 episodes left.
We'll find out then. Next up, Amazon Prime is bringing an end to Truth Seekers, canceled after 1 season. Ooh. Meanwhile, on CBS, a couple of their shows are returning. Bob Hart's Abishola.
As you commented, why?
I was like, people are still watching this show, number 1. Number 2, is getting a 3rd season.
I mean, that's what CBS does. Once they have a hit on their first season, they'll just keep making more of it because it's familiar territory.
I was talking about base hits. I was talking about base hits earlier. Like, their network built on them. Mm-hmm. Next up, The Neighborhood, also getting a 4th season on CBS. And then lastly, HBO Max, before I believe it even premieres, has given a 2nd season to Gremlins, The Secret of the Mogwai.
Yes, it has yet to premiere on HBO Max, but it gets a 2nd season.
I didn't even realize they were doing a Gremlins show.
Well, now you know.
Now I know.
So be on the lookout for it.
I will not. But let's keep going because now we get to talk about.
Speaking of HBO Max, there's a show on there called The Bridge, which is a British show, which is a competition, one of those competition series where they try and create a bridge to a cash money prize. So that's also a show that's available.
That's also a show. Wow, there's all sorts of things happening on HBO Max.
Yep.
But now we move into deaths. Some weird ones this week, I guess is what I'll say. A mix of emotions, I think, this week isn't a good way of putting it. First up, Leslie E. Robertson, age 92, a structural engineer, speaking of bridges, was part of the team who built the World Trade Center, the Shanghai World Financial Center, and the Bank of China Tower.
Those are 3 iconic buildings. Well, I guess now 2 iconic buildings.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, a sad one. Age 38, Vincent Jackson, former NFL player for the San Diego Chargers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This one rippled through the sports world.
Yeah.
Suicide, I think, was ruled to death.
Right. Yeah. They ended up finding his body. Yeah. Real rough. So yeah, condolences to his family. And then a not so sad one.
Your mileage may vary.
For a lot of people, but your mileage may vary. Rush Limbaugh, this happened today, age 70, Hall of Fame radio host. You know, he had a radio show for years, 30 years, something like that. Some president gave him a Presidential Medal of Freedom last year. But, you know, mostly known for being kind of the spirit, of kind of being ahead of his time, I guess, if you will, for being a conservative blowhard who basically espouses his opinions, as maybe questionable as they are, on millions of listeners, and kind of started a trend with conservative speakers to do the same over the 30 years that followed. And yeah, he's made quite an impact, and a lot of people kind of tailored their political opinions based on the things that he's said over the years. Some of these things involved his viewpoints on race, on LGBT people, on feminism, on sexual consent, climate change, military intervention in the Middle East, you name it. Any kind of, you know, conservative point of view that maybe got warped and stretched way beyond where it began originally. Some of that warping and stretching started right in Rush's mouth. Like, I think it created a lot of what we now view as the modern conservative viewpoint. He definitely had a huge hand in it because he was an extremely influential radio host.
Yes, and as with Time's Person of the Year, it's not necessarily the best person of the year, it's the most influential person. Yes. And Rush Limbaugh is anything short of an influential person in politics.
Yeah, the seeds he sowed eventually became the Trump administration in a lot of ways. It eventually became stuff like the Tea Party movement, or even now with you could say a lot of things that kind of had its roots in the stuff that Rush and a lot of people adjacent to Rush were saying at the time, way back in even the early 90s. This has an impact. Like, you may think that some person with a radio show, 30 years ago, sure, but does that actually matter today? In this case, yeah, you'd be surprised with how much of an influence you can have if you have a loyal group of listeners that follow you for that long.
Well, we're a fifth of the way there.
Yeah, no, we're gonna, just wait in 30 years, when President Dwayne Johnson is in office, people are gonna look back at the Media Boat podcast and be like, man, they were so influential and ahead of their time.
Hey, if we do this for 30 years, I hope we also end up in the Hall of Fame.
Jesus Christ, I don't know if I have that in me. I've only lived 30 years already. All right, let's see. So yeah, less said about that man, the better. Let's move on into music, and I toss this right over to you.
All right, I'm going to start music with the Billboard, and we start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And still the hottest song right now is Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Just jumping in her T-Bird and having fun till her daddy takes the car keys away.
Your description of what driver's license is about has changed every week, and it's very entertaining.
You realize how many songs there are about people and cars? I could do this all week long.
Fair enough. What else is in our top 5?
At number 2, as I mentioned last week, there was a new song by Cardi B called Up. Well, it premiered at number 2, Up by Cardi B.
Up.
At 3, getting that Super Bowl bump.
Super Bowl bump.
Well, I see. I want to transition right into Blinding Lights, but I couldn't finish Super Bowl yet. Blinding Lights by The Weeknd at number 3. Save Your Tears by The Weeknd at number 4. And rounding out your top 5, Mood by 24 Gildan featuring Ian Dior.
Yep. Not a whole lot of movement, but a little bit.
Nope. We had the one new up there, Cardi B.
Yeah. And Save Your Tears also was not in the top 5. Yeah.
Yep. As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, still riding that racial bump is Morgan Wallen.
Jesus.
With Dangerous, the double album.
Oh boy.
Number 1.
Yeah.
This means that The Highlights by The Weeknd is at number 2. Debuting at number 3, Medicine at Midnight for Foo Fighters. Shiesta Season by Pooh Shiesty is at 4. And rounding out your top 5, The Voice by Lil Durk.
Yep. I don't know who Pooh Shiesty is, but that might be one of my new favorite names.
I don't know. I did end up listening to that Medicine at Midnight album by Foo Fighters. It's very Foo Fighters album.
Yeah, it's very Foo Fighters. I don't remember much about it because it's so much the Foo Fighters that I've bounced right off of me.
Yep. I'll have something quite similar to say in thoughts for a new album that came out last week. Speaking of albums that came out last week, we have new releases. So if you like any of those albums in the top 200, we have new releases, including As the Love Continues by Mogwai. Nope, no relation to Gremlins, the legend of the Mogwai.
I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Huh. This is Mogwai.
Different.
We also have Times by S.G. Lewis. Live at St. Helens Technical College, 1981 by The Fall. And lastly, Open Door Policy by The Hold Steady. Let's get into some music news.
Yes, let's, because, hey, some stuff happened.
So you know how we talk about stuff before it actually happens?
Always.
And like, we're pretty much on top of this stuff because we've been doing it for years and we're like following the news.
Always.
Well, guess what happened to Brittany Spears?
Yes, this is an update following our talk about the Britney Spears documentary, Framing Britney Spears, which you talked about.
Yes.
And this is real life.
In-depth discussion about what this could mean for her current conservatorship for Britney Spears. And, well, hey, we're not the only ones who watched it and voiced our opinions on it. Because a probate judge on last Thursday overruled Jamie Spears' objection to an order establishing Bessemer Trust Company as a co-conservator of daughter Britney Spears' estate. Judge Brenda Penny appointed Bessemer as co-conservator along with Jamie Spears on November 10th. At the same time, Judge Brenda Penny also denied Spears' request to remove her father entirely from the conservatorship. Subsequently, Britney Spears' attorney, Samuel Ingram, submitted a proposed order effectuating the co-conservatorship. Jamie Spears' attorney objected to the language of the proposed order, saying it improperly reduced his powers over his daughter's estate. The judge denied those objections. Addressing the court on Thursday, Samuel Ingram said the purpose of the order was to give both Jamie Spears and Bessemer, quote, an equal division of responsibility in the hopes that they would sit down and figure out together the best way to handle this complex estate for the benefit of my client, being Brittany Spears.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "It's no secret that my client, Brittany Spears, does not want her father as co-conservator, but we recognize that removal is a separate issue. Ingram has separately indicated that he may seek to revisit his request to remove Jamie Spears entirely, but he did not do so on Thursday."
Yeah. So,
but it does seem to be trending that way.
Yeah. So basically, this is a small victory for Brittany, as it does kind of make sure that that bank does have some say, and it's not just her father. But it's kind of a loss because it's still, the judge is still basically saying it's like, no, we're not removing Jamie from it. Period. Like, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. But you're right; it does start the momentum potentially for this case to kind of like slowly realize that Jamie is maybe not the person. But we'll see.
Right. You don't have it here, but the FX doc is not the only doc about Britney Spears. Apparently, there is one that Netflix is producing as well.
Okay.
That will be premiering sometime this year.
Yeah, I did not know that.
I saw that in Variety, I think. Like,
I mean,
right after the FX premiered, everyone was talking about it.
Yeah.
Netflix came out and said that we have kind of the same thing.
Now's the time to do it.
Look forward to that.
Now is certainly the time to do it. So,
yep.
Yeah. Good to hear.
All right. And secondly, and probably maybe more importantly, depending on your circles.
Maybe less importantly, but definitely something we knew was happening.
Well, we have a date.
This news dropped hours after, or I believe around the time we were recording last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing, like a late Wednesday, early Thursday.
Wednesday night bomb here.
Yep. So, Fearless is born again. In not so many words. As Taylor Swift was not just talking a good talk when she vowed to independently re-record all 6 of the albums she originally released on her former Big Machine label. The singer announced Thursday morning, technically Thursday morning, depending on where you were in the world,
yeah.
that her blockbuster sophomore album from 2008 would be the first in a series of full album remakes that is set to roll out one by one. The first out of the chute will be Fearless, Taylor's version, which is expanded to include 26 songs instead of the original 13. The first single from the album was out Thursday at midnight. Well, that's Friday at midnight, Thursday, 9 p.m., depending on when you are in the world.
Same deal.
And wouldn't you know it, it's Love Story, the classic hit. Just as the first version of that song was the lead single from the first version of the album back in 2008.
Yeah, and we ended up going on to be one of her biggest hits.
Quote, "I have now finished re-recording all of Fearless, which will be coming out soon. My version of Fearless will have 26 songs on it because I've decided to add songs from the vault, which are songs that are almost made the Fearless album, but I've now gone back and recorded those so that everyone will be able to hear not only songs that made the album, but songs that almost made it. The full picture. 6 of those 13 added tracks, as promised, are never before heard / released.
So the other of those 13 were the bonus tracks that were on the Platinum Edition that came out later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this is basically her just following through on what she said she was going to do. This is the first of the opening salvos. Couple of things that I took from this. One, interesting that she's not starting from the top. Doing Fearless first is skipping the self-titled record, which is interesting. And I get why she would want to focus on Fearless because it's the Taylor Swift album where she became Taylor Swift. I think that the self-titled still has some songs on it that mattered to her career, but she was a different kind of artist between those two records. Fearless is also notable because it was her first record album of the year at the Grammys. So it's also her big like critical breakthrough.
It's the big coming out party.
Right. And also Love Story was her first big song.
I think it was also the first one that crossed the country border too into the pop
mainstream. The beginning of the crossover era of her career. Did you listen to the Love Story, the re-record of Love Story that came out on Friday?
I did, and that puts us right into thoughts.
Yeah, so it's that song, isn't it? It sure is.
Yeah, it hit a little differently though, listening to it.
Yeah, I think it's so. I initially was like maybe not. I was initially not on board all the way because I kind of wanted to hear like different takes on these songs. And so the fact that this is so much just the original song just re-recorded was kind of disappointing. But then I read a take where it was basically like, oh no, but that's on purpose. And this person was purporting that the reason why she's making them so faithful is because one of the goals here is to make the original master meaningless. Like if she records the same song, there's no reason to go back to the original song. She wants it to be like, no, this is a replacement, not a different version. So I think calling all of this in this project Taylor's version kind of reinforces that, is because it's not only her name as the author of the song, it's also reinforced that she did everything involved with it. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting take that I didn't necessarily see. I thought this was going to be an opportunity for her to do different takes. But in reality, no, this is just an opportunity for her to do the same songs.
So, yeah, I did listen to these back to back.
Yeah.
Well, I listened to the new version first. I thought, wait, is this how I remembered it? So I listened to the old version first, old version second. I listened to the new version again for a second time for round 3. And yeah, it's like just listening to it, it sounds pretty similar, but the new version does seem a bit off. And I kept feeling like, oh, why is that? Maybe because like when she recorded it, she was in love. And like, that teenage 16-year-old love story that you have.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because she's on record actually saying that when she wrote Love Story, she didn't believe she had actually ever been truly in love. This was before she had actually had a real relationship, again, according to Taylor at the time.
Right. So I watched the actual music video on YouTube as this was released with. And the Romeo in that is changed as she's grown, because it's no longer a person, but rather the Romeo is her fans and her love she has for her fans.
There's a lot of readings like that, I think, that you can do. On a more general level, I think there's two main differences here. One, her voice is so much better than it was back in 2009. You can listen to the new version, and she has so much more control over her tone now. She's better at taking breaths. In fact, one of the things I almost tweeted about, because it's been on my mind lately, is I can't wait till she releases the re-record of You Belong With Me, which is also on Fearless, was the second single. Because there are a couple of moments on that original recording where she just takes the biggest, noisiest breath in the middle of that song. And now when I listen to it, it's super distracting. And she would not do that anymore. She knows better about keeping her voice. Like that's the sign of a
seasoned artist,
singer, like somebody who's not necessarily that versed in singing. Now she's so much better and so much practice that I'm fascinated to see how that ends up. But yeah, and so she's a better singer, and also the production. She actually went and actually got a bunch of the people who played the original instruments on the original song. So that's why it sounds so close in that way, is because she got pretty much the same people. But what is different though is the mastering here. It's so much more of a subtle arrangement. I think it's way better than the original production wise, because if you go back and listen to the original, it's so trebly and so loud because that was how everything was mastered to CDs in 2009. It was an era of music that I think we're finally getting out of now. A lot of people in the music industry called it the loudness wars, where so much was just so much mastering on CD in the CD era was done to be as radio friendly as possible, and that meant just blowing out your production to the nth degree. And that's not the case anymore. With Folklore and Evermore, she's proven that as a producer and with producers she's worked with, she's more willing to kind of let the arrangement breathe, let the production breathe. And I think that this redo of Love Story actually lets the instruments actually have their time, instead of it just being everything is on your ears at once, which is kind of how the original is. So that's good to hear, and promising
we'll
for the rest of the record.
That carries over to all the other songs, because she did release a date for these as well.
Yeah, April 9th.
April 9th. Yep. April 9th.
Which of course adds up to 13 because Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing the whole thing of this. Also, last thing I'll say about this is Billboard confirmed that they will be treating the Taylor's versions of these singles as separate on the Billboard charts, which means that you will see Taylor appear next week, guaranteed, in the Hot 100.
Hey, return to form.
Because I was actually, a lot of people were asking about that, and whether Taylor actually wanted that to be the case, because I don't think Taylor's goal here is to chart a bunch more. I think it's more about just to settle a score as it is to be financially successful. But I guess if that happens too, she's not going to complain.
It's just added damage.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll keep seeing Taylor throughout the year, I'm sure.
Yep. I also listened to an album though.
Okay.
We'll try that from that song, and I'll be real brief with it. I listened to "Life Rolls On" by Florida Georgia Line.
Oh no!
And as you said last week, with the release of "Medicine at Midnight" being a Foo Fighter album, this is a Florida Georgia Line ass album.
I was gonna call
exactly what you
FGL.
Think. FGL. It's just another one of those albums. It doesn't do anything to distinguish itself from anything previous that they've done. It's just another one of those albums.
They're coasting? Is that what you're saying? They're coasting.
This is a coasting album, yes.
Yeah.
This is we have to make another one of these. Fine, we know what we're doing. But yeah, take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. It's not what?
Is that disappointing to you?
I mean,
hoping for more.
Yes, but are you ever disappointed going to McDonald's?
Are you calling Florida Georgia Line the McDonald's of country music? Because I'm actually on board with that comparison. I think it's a good comparison.
I'm not loving it, but at the same time, I know what I'm getting when I go to McDonald's.
Sure.
And I know what I'm getting when I go to Florida Georgia Line. Yeah. You're gonna get some hits, some ballads, and a lot of very drunken noise, but at the same time, well produced drunken noise, and I can enjoy it. But it's also nothing new that's gonna wow me or excite me.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But
all right,
they do what they do well. There's a reason they have over 1 billion served.
Probably true. All right, let's move on then.
All right, let's get into video games, and as we round into hour 2 here.
Jesus. Yeah, and it's not going to slow down either. We have a lot to talk about here.
Well, it's because we had news that dropped literal hours ago, as we've been trying to get to, but can't because we've had other news stories to talk about.
Too much to talk about.
All right, let's get to video games with some upcoming video game releases, including Shattered Dash, Tale of the Forgotten King for the PC, Curse of the Dead Gods on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Not new consoles yet. You'll get that update later. And then Persona 5 Strikers for the PS4, Switch, and PC.
That sounds like a soccer game, but it's not. It's actually a Dynasty Warriors game.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
All right, let's get into the news that was today, as was 4 hours ago, as of recording now.
More or less.
More or less. Nintendo Direct. This is not in order.
No, it's not. It's backwards, actually.
It's backwards order. Why is this?
If you want to start from the top, start from the bottom.
All right, start at the bottom. Because we'll go in order as it was released, as it was talked
Also,
about.
this is not everything. I realized that there were just so many things that I kind of skipped things that we already knew about.
Right. So let's start off with where Nintendo Direct started, which was adding Pyra and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 coming to Smash in March.
Yeah, not Sora. Everybody thought it was going to be Sora again, because everybody always thinks it's going to be Sora.
Yes, but that would be a back-to-back Square Enix joint, though, because they had Sephiroth for the last one. So we knew.
So they went back in-house.
It couldn't be.
More Nintendo people.
People were also saying for Crash Bandicoot because Crash 4 and Insane Trilogy recently came to the Switch.
But no, not yet.
Not yet. Not quite yet. Fall Guys will be coming to the Switch later this year.
Yep.
With its own update. That's an easy game to port, though, I would assume.
Why not? Why not put it on?
Hey, why not? We also have Famicom Detective Club games getting Switch remasters on May the 14th.
This was probably
2 different Famicom Detective Club games.
Yeah, this was probably one of the weirdest things they announced here, because these are pretty obscure. They never came out in the US. As the name implies, they were on the Japanese Famicom, the Japanese version of the NES. Mm-hmm. And they've completely been redone and modernized for the Switch. So yeah, it just out of nowhere. I'm not sure who was waiting for this. But hey, for all those people who love like looking into Nintendo's past and thinking about games we never got here in the States, it's cool that these are coming here.
You know, we are at the age where some executive producer went through the back catalog and said, hey, these are some games that never got released outside of Japan. Yeah. Let's just make a list of everything and then slowly release a new one every quarter.
Maybe somebody was really a champion for this thing.
It's someone's job.
Cool nonetheless.
We also have Samurai Warriors 5 later this year.
Speaking of Dynasty Warriors, this is the Samurai version of those games.
The trailer was very Dynasty Warriors-esque.
You know what you're getting into with that.
Yep. We also had Legend of Mana HD set for June 24th.
Yeah, we had known this.
I don't know who was ready for this.
Yeah, we knew that this was coming, but we didn't have a date for it yet. And this showed a lot of actually really good looking footage. So if y'all like those Mana games back on the Super NES, hey, here's a new one that nobody's played.
Yep. Speaking of game that's been a while that no one's played, Mario Golf.
Yes.
Super Rush coming June 25th.
Yeah.
Weird they have that on June 24th for Mana and then Mario on June 25th.
Hey, but good for people, good for them, because like after they did tennis, I wasn't surprised that they would have golf next. Mm-hmm. Hey, as a recent convert when it comes to video game golf, are you excited for Mario Golf?
I texted my golfing family.
Uh-huh.
Hey, there's a new Mario Golf game coming up. And I believe the reply that I got back was, let me see here. And I'm quoting here. Here. Holy fuck. What the deal? This looks like everybody's golf on steroids.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. I'm in. That sounds awesome.
Fun fact is that for a while, I don't know if this is still the case, but for a while, the people behind the Everybody's Golf series were the same developer of the Mario Golf games. Camelot was
people.
So Clap Hands later took over, but at the time, Camelot was the studio doing both series for both platforms. And so the Mario Golf series shares a lot of DNA with the Everybody's Golf series. So if you know that game, this is going to come to you guys really easily.
Well, this is classic Mario Golf, and they added the motion controls for the controller.
Yeah.
So we can swing and play like normal golf. And this is probably going to be our summer game. Right now. Yeah.
No, you guys should have a lot of fun with this one.
Yep. We also have Neon White for winter 2021. This is from Annapurna.
Did you see the footage for this thing?
I did.
I'm really confused about what this is. It looks like it's like got shooter elements. It's very anime.
It's shooter. It's cards. It's anime. Yeah. So I believe this is Annapurna.
Yeah. So it wasn't until after I actually got a better idea of where this came from, because I thought this was very Japanese at first blush. But no, apparently, hey, remember Donut County?
Yes.
It's the Donut County guy, Ben Esposito, who is behind this.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't
it had
have
his
anything to
name
do with
on the
yeah.
end card.
So no, that's the weird thing, is that apparently this is one of his joints. Also, it has one of the animators helping on this is an animator who worked as a storyboard artist on OKKO, who has some character credit here. So yeah, this thing, I did not know what the hell it was during the direct, but now the puzzle is starting to come together, and I was like, oh, okay. It's weird, but it's not Japanese weird. It's like, yeah, it's something else. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting nonetheless.
It definitely caught my eye, but then again, Annapurna does that really well with interesting storytelling and games.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Annapurna, I don't have it here, but if y'all didn't get a chance to play it on other consoles, The Outer Wilds is coming to Switch as well. They confirmed on this direct.
Right, not to confuse with Outer Worlds.
No, The Outer Wilds. There is already a Switch version of The Outer Worlds.
Yes, Outer Wilds, where that's the time loop game.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. We also had Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborhoodville Complete Edition coming March 19th. Really quickly.
Been out on other stuff for a while here, but here's a Switch version.
Yep. We also had Miitopia.
Yes.
What appears to be a cross between RPG like Me Street Pass game for the 3DS and Tamagotchi Life.
Tomodachi Life. Okay, so these require some explanation because I know you weren't in the 3DS ecosystem. So 3DS had Street Pass, which was this thing where...
I remember Street Pass.
Yeah. So one of the things you got from Street Pass was you played this little game that was like this like RPG kind of thing that you had like Mii's can like fight monsters.
Yes.
And you would do better the more you Street Passed.
Right, because they
level up your character.
Become part of your army. I remember doing this running through an airport.
So Miitopia, from judging from the footage, seems to bring a lot of elements from that, including heavier Mii customization. It mentioned that there is wigs and makeup now for Mii's, and then combines some elements of this game that I don't know how many people still remember, Tomodachi Life, which was also on the 3DS. This was like a game where you had your Mii's all living in a house together, and they would interact by having dialogue with each other, and like weird cutscenes would happen that were all procedurally generated based on what they knew about the Mii's you created. So it was almost this like weird like drama that you would watch between your actual friends in real life, or sometimes even celebrities if you made like celebrity Mii's. It was a weird ass game that I've never actually played myself, but I saw a lot of video of back in the day. So it seems like they are taking elements of that, where interactions that your Mii's have with each other as they live with each other in this virtual house have direct impact on how they perform in the RPG half of the game. This was by far the most interesting thing I thought they had in this entire direct. I was like, I kind of want this. Also, it seems like it's a co-op game too, so you can actually play with friends, which seems really cool.
Yeah, this also seemed like the game where I was like, okay, that seems too complicated for me to ever want to get involved in.
See, I'm down. I'm down for Miitopia. This is exactly the weird-ass Nintendo that I feel like we lost a little bit of in the Switch era after the Wii era. And so I'm all about this. I want this. I want to know what this is.
All right, you take that, and I'll take Knockout City for May 21st.
Yeah, so...
It's Dodgeball.
Yeah, it looks like it's Dodgeball meets that Rocket Arena game that EA also has.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it seems too close to that, right?
It's Dodgeball. I like Dodgeball.
Sure, I guess. I don't know. I'm unclear about this.
All right. We also have Star Wars Hunters, the multiplayer competitive shooter.
Yeah.
Set for later 2021. I was kind of hoping this might be League of Legends style, but it might be more like Overwatch.
So they did say, it's in the description, they described it as a third-person competitive shooter, which makes me think less PUBG. League and more Battle Royale is actually the vibe I got from it. If not Battle Royale, maybe then like a squad-based like thing. I don't know. It seems like, so really the only thing that's really confirmed is that, hey, it's an EA Star Wars project after we largely thought they were done with EA.
It's Zynga.
The story, yeah, but EA has a hand in it, I think.
Yeah.
But so it's another example of like them branching out and letting all sorts of developers do the Lucasfilm properties
now. In a game that I thought was super cool and kind of unique, DC Superhero Girls Teen Power for June 4th.
Yeah, this came out of nowhere, didn't it? Like, I knew that this existed, this franchise. Like, the cartoon is on HBO Max and stuff, right. So this exists in some capacity, but I didn't expect a game to be based on it and to look okay.
Yeah, it looked like a fun game. I don't think I'll be able to play it, but it looked like a fun game.
Superhero stuff, and then you also get some of the high school slice of life stuff.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like they're doing like a very westernized version of something like the Persona games, where there's that balance between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder how
the
heavy
school
they
life
go.
and then the outside life. Superhero
potentially could be way more interesting than the like target audience for this thing, which is young girls, presumably. It could be something bigger than that and actually might have an audience. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to it.
Interesting.
Speaking of Mario, items from Mario will be confirmed or has been confirmed for Animal Crossing update on February 25th next week.
Yeah, we had more or less knew that they were going to do some sort of Mario event, but this confirmed it. Also, warp pipes. One of the things it showed was the Mario warp pipe can actually function as a functioning warp pipe in your island. So you can have a teleport of sorts between sides of your island, which could be really good depending on how you've constructed it.
It could be really helpful getting to the other sides. So you have to like get to the other side to put a warp pipe down though, right?
Yeah, but once you've established that link, I'm sure it could be cool.
Yeah. We also have Project Triangle Strategy for later this year.
Yeah.
A demo is available today.
Yes. So this is the same bunch from Square that gave us Octopath Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
This is in that same series, but it's a tactical RPG. People were comparing it.
This was the one that looked like Zelda, but wasn't Zelda.
So yeah, this is the one that. So a lot of people are comparing it to Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics, that kind of tactics game. So this is 100% a lot of people's shit and 100% not my shit. But the audience will find this, and I think a lot of people are going to be way into this.
Yep. We also had World's End Club from the Danganronpa team for May 28th.
This is a visual novel / kind of murder mystery kind of game. The Danganronpa series is also kind of this. Also, this is apparently already on phones, and this is going to be a Switch port of an existing game. I found that out after the direct.
Okay. I mean, games already do that though.
What?
Go from phone to console.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know it. I thought it was original for Switch when I watched the direct because they did not say it was existing elsewhere.
Okay,
is what I'm saying.
Genshin Impact. We also have
still no Switch version of Genshin Impact though.
Yeah, we also have Ninja Gaiden Sigma Trilogy for June 10th.
Yeah,
an expansion pass for Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. And also Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD coming this July, which will feature the motion controls like the originals or button controls.
So yeah, a couple notes about that is they had EJ Aonuma come on and basically say, sorry, if you're expecting Breath of the Wild 2 news, I ain't got none. They basically said we'll learn more later in the year about that game, but they are still in development. And they just confirmed that, there's going to be an HD remake of Skyward Sword. Honestly, I don't really care about Skyward Sword. I didn't play it when it came out, and I don't plan on playing it now.
But this is where the beginnings of the whole story, though.
Yeah, but is it really that important? I don't know. This game, I feel like, was one of the more divisive Zelda games when it came out. I feel like you had a lot of people saying, oh, the cool motion control stuff they do is good and some of the dungeons are interesting, but then you had an equal amount of people being like, the first hour of this game is a tutorial slog, it's really hard to get into, and it was the game that I think a lot of people thought tipped the scales on the Zelda formula is really old. And I think the reaction to this game, I think, is a lot of the reasons why Breath of the Wild and Link Between Worlds, which were the Zelda games came out after this, I think were the way they were, is because I think Skyward Sword was the tipping point for a lot of people when it came to that old crusty Zelda formula.
They also announced a new controllers for that as well, which looked pretty cool.
They look cool. They're based on the Master Short Sword and the Shield. So yeah, neat.
And Splatoon 3 was announced for next year, 2022.
That was the big thing at the end of the presentation. I think it's smart. I think it's been enough time for a new Splatoon game. I've never played them, but they have their fans, and it seems like they're really well-made shooters. So, hey, I might try it.
You don't have it here, but Monster Hunter Rise was also announced.
They showed, we knew that was coming for a while. They just showed a new trailer. Right.
And I think there's a new skin for that as well for Monster Hunter fans. Yeah. So, out of all these games, what are you looking forward to?
Like I said, I think I'm most hyped about Miitopia because that's the person I am. But I think there's a lot for everybody, I think, in this lineup. I think there's some stuff to be excited for.
Oh, you don't have on here, but Capcom arcade games also announced.
That's coming out on everything. So
you get 1942 free, the plain game, and then everything else like Street Fighter is attached to a pack or a bundle.
Yeah, that's the other reason why I didn't mention it, because it seems like it's potentially really gross because it's a platform that you have to buy a bunch of add-ons for. Which
we'll talk about a platform they have to buy a bunch of add-ons for.
We'll get there. All right. Anyways,
Mario Golf Super Rush, probably the only game I'm super excited, kind of already pre-ordered maybe.
Could be good
for it. But otherwise Nintendo Direct, done.
All right, let's talk about something else.
All right, so let's talk about some weird stories then, right?
Yes, 2 weird stories I combined in one because I didn't want to have 3 stories, even though it's technically one after that too.
Even though you don't want to talk about 6 Days in Fallujah thing.
Oh man. Okay.
All right, so because it is the 20th anniversary of a lot of shit going on, Pokemon got some big plans.
Yeah.
Including a virtual concert featuring a performance by U.S. rapper. I don't want to specify that.
Because I got this from a UK site, all right? Jeez.
Post Malone.
Yeah, because when you think Pokemon, you think Post Malone, right? I mean, I do.
Post Malone is a Pokemon. Or at least he has them etched on his skin somewhere, I assume.
Somewhere.
So tune into the Pokemon YouTube channel for the 25th anniversary for Pokemon Day, which is February 27th. Catch the live concert headlined by a digitized Post Malone.
Yeah.
The Pokemon Company says the, quote, massive online party will feature a few surprises you'll want to stay around for. A bit unexpectedly, the virtual Pokemon Day show kicks off a year-long music series called P25, organized by the Pokemon Company and Universal Music Group. P25 is set to debut new songs from rising artists and award-winning superstars like pop icon and American Idol judge Katy Perry.
Yes.
Which, according to the description of the 25th anniversary website, we don't have a lot of details though about it. But the Pokemon Company says to expect details to drip in and out throughout the year.
So if you had told me that there was going to be a concert series for the Pokemon 25th anniversary, I don't know what I would have believed.
I would have said, why, yes, they already do concert series for the Pokemon music.
Yeah, but not like that.
No, not like this.
This is very different than that. Because none of these artists have any songs about Pokemon. Like, what are they going to get that dude? Hey, do you remember that song that one? I think it was that a really early Young Thug song that was like his diamonds, they say Pikachu? You remember that?
I think so.
Yeah. Do a Young Thug concert. Like, who has Pokemon songs? Like, nobody. So how are they getting these artists? Like, what are they deciding? Like,
I said Weird Al has Pokemon.
Yeah, but that was already that was officially sanctioned though. They had him do that for the second movie.
Yeah.
To do a Weird Al concert, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I mean, it's not, you're not wrong.
I'm not anti it.
But yeah, I don't know what to think about this. It's weird, is one of the reasons why I want to talk about it.
Also,
I guess we'll see
for
on the
Pokemon
27th.
25th anniversary, go to your McDonald's and get a Happy Meal for Pokemon card starters and Pikachu box.
In theory, but the reality is apparently a bunch of freaking old dudes are snatching them up before kids can get them because the Pokemon card market is super hot right now, even new cards.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen this, but there's like people posting pictures of like the card racks at Targets completely bare because just people are immediately rushing to get new cards.
Well, yeah, and then go to YouTube, go to Twitch and then search card openings.
Yeah, it's a big deal right now.
Pokemon for like the first 400 people.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're like me and you sold your entire collection of Pokemon cards that you had collected your entire life, 5 years ago at a garage sale to an angry dude for $5, you're probably very upset right now.
I'll give you the $5 back if you want it back so much.
I just want my dignity back at this point. I am so mad at that dude. I was gonna sell it for 22, which is also too low, but he refused to buy them unless it was for $5 because he literally told me to my face that they were worthless and I was doing him and he was doing me a favor.
Yeah, when they say that line, that's how you know that you got something on your hands.
Because he knew something I didn't. Because even at the time, 5 years ago, I still thought I actually did think they were worthless because my entire life, that was the narrative we were told, right? Is like, oh, these things, yeah, you're told, like people say your Charizard is going to be worth hundreds of dollars, but it's not really.
And then
so I believed it.
And then we have the proof of that from Beanie Babies being absolutely worthless.
Exactly. We all watched Beanie Babies and we all saw, okay, so Pokemon's going to be worthless. Now we know, let's not worry about this shit. And frickin' 2020, now people are paying off their frickin' mortgage and their student loans off selling their original holograph Charizards. I had 3 of them.
Yeah. Why do you think you wanted $5 for them?
I was so mad. Like, I've been so mad about this. Anyway.
Did you start pulling your hair out?
Oh, no. This was gone before that. Unrelated. Hashtag the millennial experience, I'm sure. Anyway, on less annoying subject, potentially.
Oh, no, this is a more annoying subject.
Now for you to get incensed about something. All right,
let's do it. Not for me to pull out my hair. All right. So, Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Talked about it a few times here on the podcast. Putting it lightly.
Leave that one. Okay. Yes. Kingdom Hearts.
Media
Boat favorite.
Personal favorite.
Yeah.
Screw Media Boat.
And thus personal a Media Boat favorite.
And Media Boat favorite.
We talk about it enough here on the Media Boat podcast.
Has come to the PS4. You can get it on the PS5, the Xbox One, upgraded Xbox Series X. And you can even play it on the Switch with the recent Melody of Memories. But you can't play it on PC.
Announcer voice until now.
In a world. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts is coming to PC for the first time. But it's by publisher Epic Games.
Yeah.
Because PC ports during the Epic Games Store Spring Showcase was revealed. And as you may have guessed, the Kingdom Hearts games will be Epic Games Store's exclusives on the PC.
For now.
No timed exclusives, as most things are.
Yeah.
The entire series will be released on March 30th. The series is pretty complicated, but if you haven't heard or so, several Kingdom Hearts collections are coming to PC. And they've got about a dozen games between them.
So I know you know what these are. So will you tell our audience what they're offering?
Yes, the standalone title. So you can get Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 HD remakes, which is 6 games plus 2 movies for the price of $60.
Yeah.
$50, $49.99.
Yeah,
it's the
those are
$10 cheap one.
Yeah.
for $49.99, $50. For $60, you can get Kingdom Hearts 2.8 HD Prologue Remix.
Which, if you ask me, should not be $60.
No, because that is only the 2.8 Prologue game, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance,
right,
and the back cover movie,
right,
for $60. That's 3 games more. That's 3 games for $10 more than for the 6 collection.
Older games. I guess the pricing is probably less based on the content and more based that was a PS4 era game as opposed to a PS2 era game.
Yes. For the Kingdom Hearts 3 and Remind DLC, it's $60. For Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, it's $60. So if you want to buy everything on PC, it's going to cost you $240 to buy all the games. Or go on the PlayStation Store right now, and for $25, you can get the Kingdom Hearts all-in-one pack for $25.
Yeah.
That's every game besides Melody of Memory for $25. And that is bullshit.
So yeah, pricing is probably the biggest problem here. Of course, you also get into all the people who are angry that it's on Epic and not Steam. That's a whole other conversation. I didn't even
get to that argument.
Yeah, but yes, you're right. The pricing is obnoxious here for these games. Well, also on the Xbox side, these games are on Game Pass right now.
Yes.
So
you can play on a PC with the Game Pass.
So no, you can't. That's the thing. So the PC Game Pass ecosystem is still separate from the console. There's 2 separate lists. So no, Kingdom Hearts games are not available on the PC Game Pass. So that's the thing, is that they know they have a locked audience here. They know that anybody who's going to want to play Kingdom Hearts on PC will have to pay this price to do so. That's why these are so high, because they know they can get away with it.
Yes, but this does mean the modding community is going to be all up on it.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people were very quick to make jokes about what you could possibly see Donald doing after these games come out. And I'm like, Donald's probably been doing stuff on the internet for years at this point. This is not new. And yeah, so I don't know. It's a weird situation, and I'm glad that these are available to people who maybe have been holding out for a PC version to play these games. But really, they're available in so many forms at this point.
Yeah.
Why wait? Is the question.
Yeah, especially for the HD remixes. Those are 20-year-old games.
Right.
15-year-old games.
They're old games in there.
No.
So.
No, not worth the price of admission.
Jesus, are we really 20 years out from Kingdom Hearts 1?
Kingdom Hearts 1 was 2002.
Oh, almost. Okay. Jeez. That scared me for a second. Next year. Holy shit. Next year, 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts. I didn't think that was going to happen anytime soon.
We're in year 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah, that's wild to me. Wow. Okay. Anyway. All right. So anything else you want to say about Kingdom Hearts? Get off your chest before we move on.
Don't spend your money on this.
Yeah.
Show Epic Store that we mean business by not giving them business.
Yeah, giving them the business, if you know what I mean.
No, this is just absurd. I mean, I get why you're doing it. They have a deal with Square Enix. This is exclusive. It's just the pricing for this is absurd, especially since you can get this for so much cheaper on a console. There's no reason to pay for a full price game.
Yeah. Speaking of absurd, one last real quick news story. We do not have time to get into it. It's a whole can of worms. But I just want to mention it because it was probably the biggest story, the actually biggest story in video games this week. So a little game called 6 Days of Fallujah got re-announced, I should say. It is a game that, as the name implies, takes place during a certain period of combat during the Iraq War that happened in the 2000s. It was a game originally announced back in 2009, was going to be published by Konami, but then was canceled when Konami got cold feet. The game has resurfaced. The dude who used to be in charge of the studio who developed it back in the day is trying to resurrect it. and has been doing a circuit of interviews where he's trying to justify bringing back such an old, irrelevant game to a current audience. And he's just making a complete fool of himself trying to support this game, trying to say that the game is not political when it's literally a game that takes place during the Iraq War, a war that is still happening. It's embarrassing. It's ridiculous. There's a lot of baggage here about how he is purporting that the game tells its story. Supposedly it's based on, real stories he's heard from soldiers. He's also saying that the game does not address things like the use of, potentially
techniques,
like potential like chemical warfare that maybe the US military allegedly did during this confrontation. Yeah, it goes some places, and he's trying to say like, oh no, my game doesn't do this. So it's a mess, and it's so weird. It's just a weird story that this thing is even seeing the light of day again. Will this game actually come out? Who knows? But the guy seems to really want it to, when it seems completely tone deaf for 2021.
I mean, we're still in the same war.
Yes.
So
even
I don't know if that's
a bad idea at
more
the time.
About us than it is about the game.
Yeah, it's a bad idea at the time, and it's a bad idea now. So just wanted to real quick mention it. It might pop up again if there's more news about it in the future.
Wait, weren't we talking about being tone deaf earlier in this podcast?
We were, yes. All comes full circle.
If you've been listening to us for this entire podcast, clearly 2.5 hours.
Thank you.
Over. Thank you. We have a lot to say.
Yes,
and there's still more we could have talked about if we kept the 4 stories.
Yeah, if only. But yay! But thanks for listening to us talk. We're all done talking now. As that wraps up the video games, and that wraps up this podcast. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week for another episode of the Media Boat Podcast. If you want to catch our mugs in video form, go to YouTube and search Media Boat Podcast on there. If you want to listen to us in audio form, we're on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere where you get your podcasts, you can find us. On social media, our handle on Twitter is @MediaBoatCast. If you want to find us on Facebook, search Media Boat Podcast and find our page. If you want to find us on the internet, we're MediaBoatPodcast.com. If you want to email us on the internet, we are MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com. I think that will do it. So thank you for listening or watching. We'll be back next week.
Yep, we'll be back with more episodes, more news, more thoughts.
Yeah, all sorts of things.
Ooh, lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
All right. Hopefully not as long as a podcast.
But yeah, we'll see.
All right. Bye.
Bye.